How many regular e-commerce customers in the room? Let me just see. Okay. I see the hands are not so many people, but I know so many techies who would rather go to the counter and withdraw money as opposed to use money, okay? Probably the effect of being scammed and the likes. But I think this is a conversation that we need to continuously have. I don't know what the room feels. What are some of the issues that are making citizens reluctant to embrace some of these online payments? Because for the payment gateways to be developed, there has to be a demand or there has to be a need at the community level. And so if there is no need, then we need to address why are people reluctant? Because I believe there are companies that are willing and companies that are ready to invest. I know most of you are from the technical community. You are ready with payment solutions like AfriPay that Igor has developed. But what do you think are some of these issues that are making citizens reluctant to embrace the online payments? Any feedback or reactions from the room? It's a discussion. Yes, sir. And please introduce yourself as you speak. Anyone else, so that we take several rounds? We have another hand here. We have Grace and we have Dr. Paulos Nirenda on the other side. And Landry here. So let's start with the gentleman there. Try to be brief, please.
So I'm Otieno Ian, student at Zetech University. So one of the things that has made so many people not to embrace the online transactions are like the increased level of fraud that has been over the internet for a while, that maybe you input your data or your payment details, then after some few days you get calls from different people inquiring about a certain transaction that you made, and they would want to like mitigate and know how much you have in your account. And since most of people in the society are not learned, like they're not taught about these fraudsters, they tend to give out their details and they are being scammed. So I think scam has been a major issue. Yeah.
Thank you. Landry.
OK. Merci, Barak. La première cause de ce comportement de la population, d'abord, c'est l'habitude financière des populations africaines, l'habitude de payer cash, l'habitude de faire du cash, voilà, et avoir directement les services. Ça, c'est la première chose. Et puis, la seconde chose, c'est l'éducation financière, voilà, des différents habitants. Mais ce que j'ai constaté pour l'expérience qu'on a eue au niveau de la Côte d'Ivoire, avec la COVID et avec ces restrictions qu'on a eues, on a eu tendance à migrer vers les paiements électroniques. Et il y a eu cette facilité-là avec les paiements mobiles. Voilà. Aujourd'hui, même dans les villages reculés de Côte d'Ivoire, on fait du paiement mobile. Il y a au moins un box de mobile money, voilà, qui pour les règlements, pour les transferts d'argent et puis pour les paiements électroniques. Voilà. Du coup, ça commence à rentrer dans l'habitude de la population. Et une personne lambda, qu'il soit charbonnier, cordonnier ou même gérant de transfert d'unités, demande souvent des transferts électroniques d'argent. Voilà. Mais pour ma part, en tant que registre, on n'a pas encore intégré les paiements électroniques dans nos traitements de des opérations DNS. Et nous, on a cette particularité-là d'être, je peux dire, régulateur des télécoms. C'est-à-dire chez nous, le CCTLD, le registre CCTLD, c'est le régulateur des télécoms et des TIC, la Côte d'Ivoire. Et du coup, il a son mode de fonctionnement. Il traite généralement avec des entreprises. Et donc, les modes de paiement qui sont privilégiés sont les virements bancaires. Et bon, pour les PME, on accepte aussi du cash. On n'a pas encore intégré les paiements électroniques. Bon, le seul paiement électronique, c'est les virements automatiquement de banque en banque. Voilà. Voilà. Donc, c'est un peu ces problèmes que nous avons. Et moi, je voudrais comprendre un peu l'expérience que vous avez avec KeNIC. C'est vrai que KeNIC n'a pas la même situation que nous, parce que KeNIC est une entreprise commerciale. Voilà, c'est une entreprise elle vend, elle fait du chiffre. Alors, nous, on est régulateur. On n'est pas forcément entreprise commerciale. Donc, du coup, on n'a pas ces mêmes problématiques en termes de faire du chiffre en tant que tel. Voilà. C'est vrai que le paiement électronique va faciliter beaucoup de choses. Mais ce n'est pas forcément une priorité et une alternative obligatoire pour le régulateur que nous sommes. On peut utiliser ça pour donner l'exemple aux autres parties prenantes de notre écosystème. Mais ce n'est pas une alternative obligatoire chez nous. Donc, bon, je voulais comprendre un peu quelle a été la stratégie adoptée dans la collaboration que vous avez eue avec KeNIC. Et si jamais on veut adopter ce mode de paiement-là, la politique qu'on pourrait mener pour intégrer dans nos habitudes au niveau du point CI. Voilà, c'est là ma préoccupation.
Merci beaucoup, Landry. Very good questions. We move to, I believe, Grace on the other side. I'll come back to you. I see the questions are increasing. Let's go to Grace and then Dr. Nyirenda. Then I will come back to those two questions.
Thank you, Barack. My colleague spoke about some of the hindrances about people for adopting digital or for going e-commerce. I would like just to highlight two of them. One being the security aspect. As you know, cyberspace, people still fear to go online because they still believe that they will steal their money, they will steal their whatever they have. So I have seen a lot of things from experience, at least from the registry side, even our registrars being reluctant because of security aspect. So number two, I will talk about the lack of digital skills, which I still believe that is still huge in the whole continent, where I still believe that we need a lot of awareness driven by the government, just to educate the youth, to educate everyone on the importance of online transaction. And lastly, I'll talk about the cost of transaction, in which you'll find in some countries, it is still very high, and people are still used to their traditional way of doing operations. Yeah, those are the few items I had to highlight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grace. Dr. Nyirenda, just behind.
Okay. So I think that maybe I'm just following up from Grace. I think it's a matter of trust. I think if we can build this, that would be great. I was interested in actual data since you have been operating the system, Ego. Do you have data on how often fraudulent transactions occur, or how much money has been lost on the system. And maybe this question also applies to Kenya. I think M-Pesa has been there now for quite a long time. What is the data characteristics on fraudulent transactions? How much is being lost on a relative basis, so fractional basis, and how is this affecting trust in the people who want access electronic transactions? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nyirenda. Before the panelists respond, I'll come back for the next round of questions. And I think there's an online question. So let me allow the panel to respond so that we don't lose the momentum. But I think we also have data centers in the room. Any data center here represented? I know that they are playing a critical role in lowering the cost of services. In fact, nowadays, I prefer to push money to the bank and make a payment from the app as opposed to send directly from my phone, because there are zero charges from KCB and other banks, as opposed to the phone where you incur a small charge. So I would have liked to hear a perspective from the data center, but Igor, you could take the questions, and then we also have Rosemary take the same. Then I will take remote and the rest of the questions.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Barak. I will actually comment on the scamming issue, fraud. Yeah, actually, he's right. I mean, I always see a lot of emails being sent to people, you know, to give out the bank details that, you know, or they've won something, to click on some on a link to submit the card details or the bank details so that the money can be paid onto the bank account. I know a friend who has lost over $30,000 at some point because of that. So like that person, to actually trust to make any transactions online, you know, it will be very hard for them. So, you know, scamming is real. And I always tell people who actually, I mean, I have friends who actually send, you know, forward me these kind of emails and asking me, do you think that this is real? I always say, have you ever played on any lottery? Or this email you are being sent? Have you ever participated in anything? Because people, we have a weakness to money. Every time we see money, we just want to grab it. And we need to know that money you haven't worked for, it's wrong money. So that means that someone sending you an email that you've won something, don't even open it, just put it in the trash. So coming back to what Landry said, our experience with KeNIC, I mean, it was during, as I said, actually what I've noticed is registries in Africa, they don't know that they are sitting on a gold mine. So you have some of interesting domain names, which actually you are offering at a cheap price, and probably many people, they want those domain names. So KeNIC actually saw that, and some other few registries we are talking as well. With KeNIC, we worked on the auction of those domain names, provided the system, and provided also the payment gateway. And I don't think that there has been at any time any problem when people were transacting then. So I would actually encourage registries, especially you have a lot of domain names in pending delete. I always wonder why do you keep those domain names in pending delete for that longer period? Just we have, as a free register, we have an auction platform. Why can't you work together? Then you know, those domain names in pending delete, put them in an auction platform. Then when there might be some of these, you know, I've seen Chinese, they like to buy a lot of domain names, especially when they are short and on the second level. So we always get, especially with Ivory Coast, you know, we always get inquiries from Chinese. Can you ask if these domain names can be released? It's in pending delete for so many days. And, you know, then we send them an email, they release it, then it can be registered. But what you don't know, you could have made some money. That money could be like acquiring that domain and then registering it, because it's passed on to another registrant. So if we work that way, you know, I always hear registries, they are crying like, you know, we don't get enough money, but money is there. You actually don't know how to actually get that money from what you have. You know, KeNIC, they've seen that and they're actually doing that. And we, as I said, you know, we've done the same thing with Chad as well. At the beginning, we did with South Sudan, but it didn't work well. But I hope that next time it will happen very well. And Mr. Dr. Nyirenda, I mean, Grace, it was a comment, so I'm not going to comment on that. Dr. Nyirenda asked if we have any data on these fraudulent transactions. Yes, actually, you know, we did not lose a lot because, okay, mainly in, I would say like in Rwanda, the customers we tend to get these ones who want to, who are selling Bitcoins. And with the Bitcoin, I always say you know, there's a lot of fraud happening there. So every time I see, or some of people, I mean, work with in a register, we see this kind of transactions. We always ask, okay, before now, I mean, we always ask what kind of business this person is in. But at the beginning, I would say that, you know, when we see that it's a business where we fear that there might be a lot of fraud, what we tend to do is we keep, instead of giving that money just after we are accredited, we tend to keep it for like a month or so. But recently, you know, there was a case of like where we, okay, I can't say that we lost. It's under investigation. So that money has been taken away from our account. It's about 1,500 US dollars. But other than that, we haven't lost a lot so far, because we are a bit careful on who we accept. And going forward, I just wanna, this is an observation or like an idea I can put to you people in the room. When developing this payment gateway, you know, we have a lot of African diaspora, you know, outside of Africa, in America, Europe, and so forth. And most of the time, they buy, you know, they would want to buy stuff for their beloved ones back in their home. And you know, imagine if we can provide a solution where supermarkets or shops or smaller shops, how can they actually manage to sell the product, their food online, so that someone who is in the US can buy something to the imam who is in a remote village. That would be great. So this is something which I think that going forward, I mean, we have to think of. Me, I've been talking to a lot of African people who live abroad, and it's something which they would appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, Igor. Rosemary?
Apologies. I thought I was loud enough by myself. So at KeNIC, we take a commercial approach in terms of how we engage. So we drive registration. It's unlike regular regulators, say in other markets. What we do, it's we drive membership, get people to register, hence the need to create different ways to do business. But critically for this discussion is that we have an integral partnership with our ecosystem, especially the financial services ecosystem, to see how we can work together. And I think that is critical, and that has been a very key part in how this market has grown. In terms of what could be done, I guess skills transfer is a critical thing. We need to work with the current ecosystem, academia, and all those, so that to ensure that, we have the adequate skill sets to support the ecosystem. And then in terms of cybersecurity, of course, there's a mention that about reluctance. In terms of how much has been reluctance because of security issues and standards. And I'll keep saying that the more something is used, the more human beings will do what they do best. We're known to error, maybe knowingly or unknowingly. So fraud increases. I think there was the Kenya Financial Sector Stability Report that showed an increase in cybercrime, and also the Kenya National Computer Incidents Response Team, Cette. Those of you who were there on Monday must have met some of them. They were on the panel, and they mentioned that we've had, say, in Kenya, 158.4 million cyber threats, which is an increase from previous years. And the main reason is as you increase internet penetration and have an increase in uptake of e-commerce, of course, this happens. But what then do we do to mitigate? That doesn't mean that we stop online payments or we stop trying. We keep at it and we grow our market by building more resilient systems to ensure that we protect the cyberspace that we're now moving into. And I think that's the approach that we should take because of the higher gains. In the legal profession, they always have the weighing scale. I'm a lawyer by profession, so I tend to go back to the basics of our training, which is sometimes look at the gains and the losses. I think there's more to gain by us encouraging the use of more online payments, and the encouragement to other registrars and regulators is to work closely with your ecosystem. I'm sure you have financial sector partners. You mentioned that it's a gold mine. Have a meet and greet. Listen and ask themselves, what's your wish list? If we work together, what could we achieve? And I think if we do that, then we'll move forward very well. And I think that is what has worked in Kenya. The close engagement between regulators and actually businesses. And that synergy is even what has led to even development of laws on a day-to-day basis that helps promote e-commerce and even promote online trade and e-commerce. So I guess that's the simple answer that I'll give. Greater collaboration. You may not want to look at it from the commercial perspective in terms of maybe selling domains and whatnot, but what more can you use so that you catalyze the growth of trade online?
Thank you, Rosemary. I think we will take the remote questions and the remaining round of questions so that we can finish promptly.
Thank you, Barak. So we have a question about Tigo Cash from Paul Ndugu Kariuki. What rates are applicable in Tigo Cash for the merchant and the end user within Kenya? And how long does it take for the merchant to access the money received in Tigo Cash?
Thank you. I think that will go to Igor. There was a question. Yes, please introduce yourself next to Grace. The microphone should be there shortly. Was there another question? Have you asked your question? Not yet. Okay, we can start with you and then we go to, the mic has already gone. We'll come back here. Any other question? This is a closing round or comment.
My name is Annette. It was just a comment regarding the question that was asked on one of the reasons that is leading to the low uptake of online payment systems. And what I have seen, especially in the last 2 years in Africa, we've experienced a lot of innovation in the fintech sector. But then again, there has been little to no consumer education on the exact solutions that the payment gateways are providing. So if the solution providers can prioritize on that, I think that can maybe change the statistics. So thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a good intervention. Yes, let's have our colleague here.
Hi, good morning. I'm Kacha Brian, a digital profile at Radicha. Well, I would love to take a different approach. There's a dilemma between private sector and government in terms of now the e-commerce and payment. My view is there's an innovation gap between government and private sector. For example, while transacting with the fiat money or paying with the fiat money, there's no transaction fee and everything. But there are security issues that existed. The fiat money, there was fake notes, fake coins and everything. So the ultimate goal when you're paying online is to have a system that has no transaction fee. So what happened next? Does the government buy in or kill the innovations in the private sector? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think Igor has raised the issue of Bitcoin. I can't see Dusan from Grancy, but he'll be coming in the next session. I hope he can talk about, as we talk about innovation, some of the experiences with the alternative payment mechanisms like blockchain. So I think I will request Igor to respond to the question and also make closing remarks, and Rosemary as well will wrap up for us the session, and then we proceed for the tea break at exactly 10 o'clock. Igor.
Okay, thank you, Barak. If I heard the question correctly, so this is a person in Kenya who wants to ask about the fees for Tigo Cash as a merchant. Am I correct?
Yes, the rates applicable in Tigo Cash for the merchant.
Okay, so Tigo Cash, if he's referring to Tigo Cash in Tanzania, so depending on the volume he's making, we start off 3% and lower as the volume goes high. And how can he get then if he transacts in Tanzania and then he wants his money here in Kenya, then he will need to withdraw to his M-Pesa account. Yeah, I think that's all I can say about that. So as closing remarks, and I just want to say this, especially to the younger people. Young people can do great things if they have a great leadership. With all these issues we have payment gate, because with even whatever systems we are building, we build with young people, and we also even ask those young people, some of them, we pay some of them to actually try to hack us so that we see the issues or security issues on our systems, and it helps us. So I had this idea. Why not, like here in Africa? I don't know if AFTLE can do that, or we make something like an African community developing our own systems, where like whether it's payment gateways, whether it's systems which we can use here in Africa, and do that as be volunteers, and then be shareholders, and then when these systems start making money, then you get paid as those systems progress. I give you an example, quick example, like WHMCS. WHMCS was actually built by volunteers, and then making money slowly. And now WHMCS has been bought by cPanel. And I'm sure that those who had designed that, they managed to get some money out of it. So I think that as Africans, we attend a lot of meetings, but what we do after those meetings, it's like we are going back to whatever we are doing. It's like we are coming here to just enjoy, dance, drinks, and greet each other, and then go back to our respective countries, just to continue doing what we do. We actually need to be patriotic, love our continent. I remember I'm going to quote the president of Rwanda. I was following him talking about, that was back in 2007, wanting to sit at the high table. When he's saying that when the African president going to meetings, they are sitting back, and there are the people in Europe, America, they sit at the high table. He applied the same in technology. Don't you want to sit with Facebook, Google? We can do anything they can do. We've attended the same schools, we've learned the same things. Everything is on the net. I have a friend, a colleague called Mike. He always tell me, Google is our friend, because many things are on Google, and we can build so many things together. But we need to actually don't put money as a motivation. Let be your motivation, wanna be first, compete with those who actually have already made it. We just want to make it. Leave your name so that your name can live long. You see an example of Steve Jobs. It's like he's still existing through his work. So we just don't want to die. We just want to continue living through our work. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Igor, and thank you for the challenge. Rosemary?
I guess I'll respond to the question of the dilemma about the innovation gap between government and private sector. And that's how it's supposed to go, because innovation always goes before regulation. And if it was the other way around, I'd be very worried. So it's in the right place. Now, what happens after that? It's about having meaningful policy conversations. Once you've created something, explain it, and then now help build a policy framework that supports what it is that you do. You mentioned cryptocurrencies. I guess some countries have got discussions, and even in Kenya, we have a discussion paper on the central bank digital currency. All this will be ran through the rails of the infrastructure that we're discussing today. So there's a need to bridge that gap and to ensure that, there's a transfer of skill sets. Like, what does it mean? What impact will DNS have on CBDCs? Those are the questions that we should be asking ourselves. What impact can, DNS have on intra-African trade? You mentioned issues like no transaction fees. I guess there's a lot more money to be made outside transaction fees. Call your banker friends. I'm happy to shed light. But just having transaction velocity within various ecosystems does a lot to grow economies, and maybe speak to the real issues as Africans. We have something like the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Right now, intra-Africa trade is, I think at 2021, I'm not so sure what it is right now, it was 14.4%. What can, digital financial services that are done through the DNS framework, what more could that do? If we improved inter-African trade, of course, it will mean even lifting people out of poverty. There's a thought that if we increase it even up to maybe 30, 40%, you've lifted over 30 million out of poverty. So it can be a good thing. So maybe my closing remarks is that we have an obligation, all of us in this room, with further knowledge in terms of how best to do things, to go back. Let's pick up on the challenges you've just given us, to go back and help work with our governments, work with our businesses, to see how can we make use of these assets that we have to improve financial technology and even increase of trade using the platforms that we have access to. I guess the challenge is back at us. What can we do with what we have to help us use that common word, leapfrog, to jump across the challenges that we have? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Rosemary. We've come to the end of our session this morning. Very interesting perspectives and challenges. I think, Igor, you've given us a challenge to come up with African solutions to African problems. If I understood it well, an African version of GitHub, something like that. I think for your information, Igor is also in the process of building a registry system for the African continent. We hope that there'll be some takers in the room to try out this system. So we are not just talking, but some actions are coming up in the room. But I think if you are also innovating or coming up with solutions, we really invite you to the table so that at least in subsequent sessions, we can have real solutions to the challenges that we are discussing in the room. With that, may I request you to join me in applauding my panel, Rosemary and Igor. I think they've done justice to the subject, and thank you very much. You may have tea. Let's be back by 10:30 so that we proceed with the next session. Thank you.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Thank you. It's 10:30 a.m. I'm not sure where my moderator, Grace, is. All right. So I think Igor has ended the last panel session with a challenge to us, and in particular to the youth, who are most of the innovators, about strategies in which we can utilize our skills to be able to make the most from the DNS ecosystem or the DNS sector. Now, a number of African registries have come up with different strategies on how to make sure that the youth are part and parcel of the DNS ecosystem. Yesterday, we had the example, and we actually saw Benin DNS Forum get an excellence award for the activities that they have been doing in making sure that the youth are part and parcel of the DNS conversation. And on the stage, on the extreme right, I have Mr. Molehe Wesi. He'll introduce himself again, the CEO of .ZD Domain Name Authority. They've been doing a lot with the youth over the last couple of years, and he'll tell us about this. We have Ruth from Liquid. We had a presentation during day 0, the Kenya DNS Forum, in which we heard about what Liquid and KeNIC are doing insofar as youth, ensuring that the youth are part of the DNS business or ecosystem is concerned. And finally, we have Rose from DNS, Benin DNS Forum, who is going to, of course, also talk about the activities that they are doing with the youth. To guide us will be none other than Grace from .rw. And Grace, I think as you come up and as you prepare for the session, I'll give the floor. I'll start, I think, this side with Rose to introduce herself, and then the rest of the team, and then Grace shall steer the conversation. Thank you.
Merci, Barak. Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. Permettez-moi de saluer les organisations qui ont contribué au 10e anniversaire du Forum africain sur le DNS, dont ICANN, AF-Registry, KeNIC et AFTLD. Merci également à l'équipe du comité d'organisation pour le travail qui a été fait pour les 2 jours de réflexion sur le DNS. Je suis Rose Gouroué, je suis bénéficiaire du programme Women DNS Academy en 2017. Je suis également organisatrice de l'association Benin DNS Women et je suis l'actuelle présidente du comité d'organisation du Benin DNS Forum 2022. Merci.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Ruth Nakoe. I work for Liquid Intelligent Technologies, and I look after schools projects, and I'm happy to be part of the panel.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Molehe Wesi. As introduced yesterday, I have the pleasure of leading the ZA Domain Name Authority. That's one side of my life, passions. I run an NPC with a couple of friends, and the main focus is around youth empowerment and development. And then, of course, I have multiple roles that I play in governance, mainly around, of course, youth development. And I'm glad to be part of this panel. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Grace Ingabire. I'm the CEO of RICTA. RICTA is the CCTLD of Rwanda, and I will be your moderator today for this session on youth and DNS. So with 200 million people age 15 to 24, Africa has the largest population of youth in the world. The continent has also the fastest growing youth population in the world, with 60% of its population under the age of 25. It is the only region in the world where the youth population is increasing. A recent report forecasts that by 2050, sub-Saharan Africa's youth population will increase by nearly 50% compared with the other region in the world that have projected a decrease in the youth population. So such a high number of young people is an opportunity for the continent growth, but only this new generation are fully empowered to realize their best potential. It is especially important that youth are given appropriate opportunities for work and for them to innovate. Having a youth population brings many opportunities for economic growth and innovation if these opportunities can be recognized and utilized. So our session on youth and DNS will explore Africa's youth involvement in the DNS ecosystem. And when I speak about youth, I don't ignore women. So women are still inclusive. So our eminent panelists who just give their brief presentation will elaborate more on what extent they have been participating in the DNS, the youth have been participating in the youth, in the DNS industry, what was their experience and what can we learn from their experience and how to ensure that the DNS industry can fully leverage on the youth potentials. So we had few panelists, but my first speaker today will be Rose. Rose, if someone can help us with the slide. She had some slides. Okay, while we are still preparing the slides, I think I can just move on to the second speaker, who is Molehe. Molehe, please tell us, what have you been doing in South Africa to grow the youth in terms of DNS industry?
So I think there's been a number of interventions. You'll forgive me, I'm trying to avoid to speak to a presentation, but I'll share the presentation with the program director at the end of the session. In terms of youth development within the DNS space, there's been a number of interventions. But I think what's notable is that the South African government has been intentional in one form or the other to empower youth, simply because we have one of the highest unemployment rates in the world. And when I say intentional, in a sense that we have prioritized youth, women in particular, and of course, what we would then term historically disadvantaged individuals. So this would be, of course, those of African descent. Now, with that in mind, we also have a specialized section or a program within the ministry that one reports to, which looks after, of course, these groupings of individuals. And then, of course, that translates into our own targets. One of them is to say, really, how do we create employment opportunities within the DNS space? Yesterday, one had an opportunity to touch on the programs that we are running. Over and above that, we have an ongoing DNS training program, of which in the last financial year, which ended the end of March 2022, we trained no less than 800 young people across the country. And over and above that, the percentages were 60 to 40%, where 40% is males, and then of course, 60% is females. In the main, it was young people because we were focusing on those groupings. Now, the intent is to really spark an interest within the space. We will all acknowledge that it's quite difficult to have a conversation about DNS and really convey a message to a person or a young person to say, hey, come over this side, let's have a conversation. This is the economic opportunities that lie for you. So that is the first level. Beyond that, then of course, there's a bespoke training that they'll have to embark on if they want to be trained to become a RA or a reseller. So fortunately, or rather unfortunately, not a lot of uptake in that regard has happened, but we celebrate little successes that we have. In the past financial year, we saw, I think, no less than 20 of the 800 becoming resellers and 1 becoming a fully accredited RA. So that's something, it really shows and speaks to the efforts that we are doing. Now, also on the flip side, we also have something that a lot of people don't discuss, which is the policy side of the DNS. And that's one ambition that we are going to sort of pursue with the remainder of the current financial year and also going to the new financial year. The intent is to really groom the next cohort of policymakers within the space. What we have seen, when I say we, I mean ZETNA and also the registry, is that there is low participation of South African youth within the space. So the intent is to create our own fellowships that will fund South African youth to really partake in multiple forums across the globe, regionally, and of course, nationally, to ensure that there is sustainability in terms of skills and there's continuity. And the skill sets that are currently residing in that aged group that we have really don't, how can I say this without being offensive, really doesn't part ways with the country. And it remains, relevant, and we are able to drive the initiatives within the country forward when it comes to DNS. Thank you.
So thank you, Molehe. I'll come back to you with few questions, especially when you spoke about youth and policy. But is the slide ready now? So let's just move to the next speaker, Ruth Nekoye. She's coming from Liquid, and she'll share with us the different initiatives that Liquid has been doing toward the youth. So welcome, Ruth.
Thank you, Grace. So I'll just highlight the programs and partners that we've worked with in trying to accelerate digital education in schools. As initially, we did a presentation about our schools projects on connectivity. We have done a number of schools with the government and the UNICEF for connecting a number of schools. And one of our core business is trying to accelerate the digital education in schools. And first of we have been working with partners in this, partners with KeNIC being one of our partners, Microsoft being one of our partners, and then other education technology companies that will help us doing teacher training in schools. So, for example, for KeNIC, we have onboarded 200 schools on provided domains to 200 schools, and also partnered with a website company that we have provided a website to around 60 schools. So that's what we've been working, and what we have noticed through onboarding those schools, the challenges for especially public schools is the adoption even after providing them a free bundle. After 1 year, we tried to renew the 200 domains from the public schools, but we noticed that the schools, I think, don't really understand the importance of having domains and websites in schools. And that has been a challenge. And what we are trying to do is working with other partners like UNESCO, Ministry of Education, to try to do domestic resource mobilization so that we can be able, using the resources that we're going to get, to have 100,000 domains in Africa and 100,000 websites in Africa. So this is what we are trying to push for schools to find a long-term solution for that. And also during COVID, we had an issue whereby schools were closed and students were at home and people rushed to do online learning. So what we did was also partnered with Microsoft to provide Microsoft 365 to the schools to enable them to do online learning. But after the schools that went back again, we didn't we noticed that the school now stopped even using the Microsoft accounts. So I think we need to really have to empower teachers, especially ICT teachers, maybe have an ICT managers in schools to enable the public schools to accelerate, to enable them to maintain or manage the programs that you're trying to introduce in schools. I think that's for me. Waiting for your questions. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Rose, est-ce que tu es prête? Ah, je parle aussi français, donc je peux m'adresser à Rose. Est-ce que tu es prête?
Oui, je peux y aller sans la présentation.
Ok, merci beaucoup.
Ok, je suis là aujourd'hui pour vous parler de l'expérience du Women DNS Academy. Moi-même, je suis Rose Gouroué et j'ai été bénéficiaire de la formation Women DNS Academy en 2017. Cette formation est dans le creuset de l'événement Bénin DNS Forum qui regroupe plusieurs activités, dont 5, le forum public, le séminaire, Internet City, le hackathon et la formation WDA. Aujourd'hui, nous pouvons remarquer qu'il y a un creuset entre les formations qui se font académiquement et le marché lorsque nous rentrons dans le marché. Je me souviens, de par mon expérience après ma formation académique, lorsque je suis entrée en stage déjà, j'ai remarqué que ce que j'avais appris en réalité lors de ma formation académique comparativement à ce qui existe sur le marché n'était pas complètement adéquat. Et cette formation Women DNS Academy, qui est le premier programme unique africain, qui permet de renforcer les capacités des jeunes filles et des jeunes femmes pour pouvoir leur permettre de pouvoir renforcer leurs capacités dans le secteur du numérique, notamment le DNS. Alors, ce programme nous permet de pouvoir nous former et lors de cette formation-là, nous lançons un appel à communication, c'est-à-dire nous pouvons permettre aux jeunes femmes et aux jeunes filles qui s'intéressent surtout au secteur de l'Internet et du numérique de pouvoir s'inscrire pour suivre l'initiation, la mise en place d'un serveur DNS, son administration également. Lors de cette formation qui se déroule sur 4 jours aujourd'hui, puisqu'elle avait commencé sur 2 jours, nous avons un formateur principal qui est le coordonnateur Hervé Rouzandji. Il a été déjà coordonnateur et aujourd'hui, il est le formateur principal régulier pour cette formation. Cette formation se veut un creuset pour donner de l'engouement aux jeunes femmes à s'intéresser au secteur du numérique, notamment de l'Internet et du DNS. Alors, l'objectif de la formation WDA est d'impliquer davantage les femmes aux questions techniques de l'Internet, particulièrement du DNS, et aussi de développer, c'est un creuset pour développer l'entrepreneuriat et l'économie numérique autour du DNS lors du WDA Networking qui regroupe donc les anciennes bénéficiaires avec la nouvelle promotion qui bénéficie de la formation WDA. Lors de cette formation, lors de ce creuset d'échange, est née une association dont je suis l'organisatrice, Bénin DNS Women, et cette formation a déjà aujourd'hui à son actif plus de 700 inscriptions avec 150 bénéficiaires qui ont reçu leur certification. Cette formation, je précise, elle est gratuite. Et après cette formation qui nous permet de pouvoir ramener, impliquer davantage les femmes dans le secteur du numérique, nous avons également le cadre d'échange continu en ligne sur le DNS et surtout un point focal de partage d'expérience. Nous en appelons également aux décideurs donc, pour permettre de pouvoir enrichir cette formation-là lors de la collaboration avec les différents partenaires. Déjà, nous avons l'ICANN, l'AFNIC et d'autres, et surtout pour pouvoir atteindre les objectifs fixés par le Bénin DNS Forum et cet objectif principal qui est de pouvoir impliquer davantage les femmes dans le secteur du numérique, cet objectif du programme Women DNS qui a été initié depuis 2016, je précise, et qui est à sa 7e édition aujourd'hui. Je vais m'en arrêter là d'abord. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Rose. Thank you so much, Rose. I have a number of questions to all panelists. So I have heard about the different initiatives, different programs that you are doing in your respective countries to train and equip youth and women with basic skills that the market needs. So how do we bridge the gap between what you are giving, what you are providing as a skill set, what the market needs? How do we bridge the gap between what the school or the university is teaching and what the market needs? So you are doing a lot to teach the women and youth, but what I have realized is that what the market needs is sometimes differ to what the school is providing. What incentives can we create so that we have a lot of women? I have seen a lot of gap in terms of women who are onboarded, who are doing those courses. What incentives can we create so that we have more of them? And again, if I go back to the school or the university, how can we include or how can we incorporate that in content so that it can be incorporated in the current curriculum of the school or the university? So it's an open question to all of you. Probably you can start with my brother here.
I think well, when I say we, from a South African perspective, we saw that conundrum to say we are in a niche market. So how do you really address a niche need? And one of the solutions is to really partner up with what we call MIC CETA. As we speak now, they are formulating a curricula specifically for DNS practitioners. And the intent is to create an accredited qualification, which can be, of course, utilized in any respect, be it is at our sector or even outside of a sector, someone running and administering, networks within an organization. So that's how we are trying to make it relevant. But most importantly, we are trying to address another issue, not only bring out experts, but also create future employers. So as part of the qualification, we would be providing some business skill sets. And for us, that's quite important. And why am I saying this is because many a times when you engage youth, they will always ask you, will this give me money tomorrow? I'm hungry now. I don't want to be told about DNS. So give me a job. And unfortunately, you have to find those that are willing. And with those that are willing, really implore them to say, become future employers rather than actually just, becoming consumers and becoming employees. Nothing wrong with it being an employee. I'm an employee myself, but rather strive to employ other youth because you would be creating opportunities for others. So that's how we are really engaging and solving that part of the problem, because it will be quite difficult to entice universities to really change a curricula for a niche. They'll rather teach networks as part of a curricula and really talk about DNS. In fact, a lot of people that are engaged, they would say, we never knew you as Edna, but we learned about you in our curricula. So that's quite interesting to now know that, yes, it's being taught, but people don't really know exactly what DNS means, what it implies, and how can it be used for. Now, the other thing that we have really taken into consideration The 800 that I spoke about in the main were grade 12 and grade 11 learners who are about to exit the basic schooling system, simply because we want to really enthuse them to take a career within our space. We will continue to train a little bit more of younger people, or especially grade 12 learners, to really see if they can take up a role within our space. So that's exactly what we are doing. There's many more other activities, but I think my panelists have already covered some. Thanks.
Okay, so for me to answer that question, I'll just focus on what I've experienced with schools that we have engaged with. For us as Liquid, we have done a lot of programs with schools, especially those that we have connected. And there's a program that we've been running called Young Scientists Kenya. This is a unique initiative that gives young people from across Kenya an opportunity to demonstrate innovation and showcase their scientific talents through a national science and technology competition. So as Liquid, we have been going around with the young scientist team to train them on IoT training, just to have them understand that is preparing them on even the industry, the current industry, which is going a lot into the tech in IoT and AI. So most of their projects, even recently that one of the judges, we have noticed they're using a lot of IoT in incorporating into their projects. I think that's one of the incentives that we are trying to push in especially high school public schools, running that young scientist program. And then another thing is we are trying to engage also schools, ICT teachers, to train them how to manage even their basic broadband that you have connected in school, partnered with Cisco and provided networking, troubleshooting program with the teachers, mostly ICT teachers. So we are trying just to make them understand the importance of even them managing even their basic internet, and also training them on uploading their content on their websites. So these are the things that we're trying just to engage the schools and have also the ICT teachers learn more about our programs. Yeah.
Par rapport à cette question, nous devons avoir des initiatives telles que le Bénin DNS Forum, qui a été initié depuis 2015 et qui regroupe plusieurs activités, comme je le disais tantôt, dans le programme Women DNS Academy, spécifiquement pour les femmes. Donc, déjà avec ce programme, nous avons eu déjà plus de 3 prix de reconnaissance déjà, dans le WISIS, le Women DNS Academy, le chapitre de Bénin de l'Internet, champion. Nous avons été champions de WISIS Prize en 2021. Également, nous avons été reconnus finalistes par l'Union africaine des télécommunications et de même par l'Union africaine, l'Union internationale des télécommunications, et nous sommes sortis l'un des 10 finalistes de l'Equal in Tech Awards. Alors, ce programme-là a eu plusieurs impacts et aujourd'hui, nous avons 99% des femmes qui sont déjà employées, à part les étudiants qui continuent leur cursus déjà, qui continuent encore leur cursus. C'est un peu notre impact au niveau du Bénin. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Rose. Thank you so much. Mole spoke about partnership. I trust partnership. I have seen it working. And probably before I move on to the next question, there are a lot of initiatives happening in Africa just to help the youth in terms of DNS. I have seen some being done by ISOC and other umbrellas. For instance, in Rwanda, we have an initiative to equip the youth. It's an online program that is provided by ISOC, but there are quite many. So when he spoke about partnership, so we have MOUs with those universities, and they are helping us to push to have the youth doing those courses. So the next question would be more about the employment. So these women are now trained. So do you have statistics of women and youth that you have trained from your respective programs? What is the feedback from their employers? Those feedback can be negative and positive. And what do you have to ensure that the DNS industry can fully leverage the youth potential? Again, this is an open question to everyone. We can start by Molehe.
It's quite difficult to really cite statistics because we only started, to be frank, 2 years ago to really track them and see the impact of the interventions we have had. And from the last cycle, meaning the last financial year, as mentioned, we trained 800. Of those 800, around about 20 became resellers. And then, of course, we have one round from the lot. Now, we still have to bear fruits of the other interventions, which I mentioned yesterday. One of them being a short course in DNS practitioner, where we trained 30 young people. And of course, the one that ZACR also ran. So post this, we are hoping with those qualifications they would have acquired, they will be employable. One distinct aspect about the training we chose is that we want to give them, in terms of accreditation, an NQF level 5, which is a higher certificate. Now, as part of that higher certificate, they need to ensure that there's a high probability of employment, there will be work integrated learning. So by that, the learner will have classroom time, and then they will have to spend no less than 10 months in a real life work environment where they will get the requisite experience and be capacitated with, just doing the job. So hopefully they will be absorbed within the space. If not, they will be, of course, absorbed by the corporates. And then, of course, post that, the intent is to really follow them through and see, of course, if they are employable. So unfortunately, it's all about future, ambitions. But speaking to the ones that we have done thus far, it's not such a big impact. However, we are happy with the results that we have acquired. Thank you.
Thank you.
In terms of training, we have as Liquid a platform called 21C Skills for Africa, whereby it's providing the 21C Skills training for the 21st century skills. Those are the cybersecurity and software development. And we have partnered with different organizations, mostly to empower women to take up the courses. So some of the organizations, we encourage women to give them free bundle so they can take up, and then maybe after 2 or 3 months, they can maybe pay on a discounted rate. And then also in terms of training for schools, when we are dealing with schools on providing the domains and websites, normally we do training to them so that they can be able to manage their websites. We have noticed that actually, I don't think I've dealt with a woman. I mostly deal with men. So I have not seen much interest shown from the women's side, especially for the schools projects that I've done with the schools. Yeah. So I think that's from me.
Merci Grace pour la question. À notre niveau, lors des inscriptions, nous avons un taux d'inscription assez élevé qui proviennent de plusieurs pays. Donc, je pense que ce qui est à faire, c'est de former plus de femmes déjà et de pouvoir accompagner les autres pays également sur ce genre de formation. Et nous devons également diversifier les partenariats et pourquoi pas organiser un African Women DNS Academy et possiblement pouvoir s'autofinancer pour ces genres de programmes qui permettent d'impliquer plus davantage les femmes dans le secteur du numérique. Merci.
So before I open for questions, probably the last one will be from your respective initiatives and program. What lesson have you learned? Any challenge to share with us? Any lesson learned? Morehe.
I think the lessons we have learned is that you can't do it alone. You really have to forge relationships with public and private sector. And one important thing, find a value proposition for every person you want to partner with. That's quite important. Not everyone is interested in DNS, let's be blunt. So you really have to find how you pitch it. And how I found this, you know, for colleagues like, let's say, I'm gonna pick on Liquid Telecoms because we have them that side. You would really have to speak to their ambitions for social impact, because from our country, that counts towards their PEE points. So they have to train. So resonate with that need. When you speak to public sector, really look up their vision, mission, values, and speak to those as you really want to embark on this journey. You can't partner with everyone. That's another lesson we have learned. Some people don't really just are not interested. Move on, don't waste your time. It's not shameful to do so, but rather invite them, possibly someone in those organizations, they know someone they can refer you to. Now, the challenges, as I've cited, it's always finding that balance between how do you have the most impact against the socio-economic issues that you're faced with. There's so many issues. I mean, you'll find that a young person, as much as they have ambitions to partake within the space, but they don't have the resources to do so. How do you lighten the burden? There would be those that are trained, but can't find deployment. How do you create a conducive platform for them to be there so that you eliminate as many problems? You can't eliminate all of them, and don't be hard on yourself. Really eliminate the major ones so that at least you are able to build a critical mass in terms of the numbers. So I think from our perspective, those are the lessons that we've learned, and most importantly, the challenges we're faced with. Thank you.
Okay, for me, when I've worked with schools, most of the challenges we experience is, I think, support from the head of schools. You find that maybe the ICT teacher that you're dealing with want us maybe to have this website for the schools, but they have no support from the head of the schools. And also, we noticed that most of the ICT teachers there are not well trained to handle some of the things to do with digital transformation. So we were hoping that if the government can also come in to maybe employ ICT managers, because the ICT teachers that are there are just the normal computer teachers who are not being paid to manage those services in schools. I think that is one of the challenges. And then to help on that challenge to deal with schools in terms of training, we were planning also to come up with a platform like the 21 skills that we have, maybe curate courses for the teachers on how to manage the website, how to manage their internet in schools, so that they can be able to learn and keep pushing them in those schools for them to learn. Yeah, so I think that's for me for the schools.
Rose.
Merci, Grace. Avec notre expérience au WVDA, nous avons remarqué que les formations académiques comparativement au marché industriel, il y a un gap. Donc, il faudrait forcément inclure lors de ces programmes, actualiser les offres de formation en cours pour permettre aux jeunes, notamment aux femmes, de pouvoir renforcer leurs capacités. Également, cela nous a amené donc à avoir actuellement, comme je le disais tantôt, des difficultés au niveau logistique, puisque chez nous, déjà avec les 6 éditions passées, nous avons pu faire les formations au Bénin et en Côte d'Ivoire. Donc, à cause de la logistique, nous nous limitons souvent à 25 jeunes femmes que nous formons. Donc, c'est le moment également de remercier déjà nos partenaires, l'OIF, l'ICANN, l'AFNIC, Et également le moment aussi d'en appeler à de nouveaux partenaires pour pouvoir permettre à d'autres jeunes femmes et filles qui sont dans le besoin également et qui postulent pour ce genre de formation de renforcement de capacité. Merci bien.
Merci beaucoup. So I have read, yes, please, go on.
Une question en français, je pense
Oui.
qu'elle s'adresse à Rose, de Hervé Thiagueux. Bonjour, cette formation peut être suivie en ligne. Les hommes peuvent-ils aussi en bénéficier?
Oui, merci pour la question. Cette formation, comme je le disais tantôt, est une activité de l'événement Bénin DNS Forum déroulé chaque année et spécifiquement dédié aux femmes, heureusement ou malheureusement. Donc, c'est uniquement dans le cadre des femmes. Par contre, le Bénin DNS Forum a 5 grandes activités dans son plan de travail, dont le hackathon, le DNS Hackathon, auquel il peut participer. C'est un hackathon collaboratif qui réunit une soixantaine de jeunes pendant 36 heures non-stop pour l'implémentation du DNS. Donc, il peut participer à cela et également aux différentes autres activités organisées par le Bénin DNS Forum, dont je rappelle rapidement le forum public, le séminaire et Internet City. Cette année, cette édition se déroule du 8 au 12 novembre à Cotonou et à parcours pour le hackathon DNS Hackathon. Merci.
Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions en ligne? OK. So nous allons, let me switch to English now. Okay. We are going to receive now questions from the people who are in the room. I have seen a lot of youth, and I believe this is an opportunity for you. You have the people here with different initiatives that they are doing in their countries. So I will ask the team from KeNIC to help us move the mic. We'll start receiving questions from this side, then we'll move here and there. Yeah, so let's start with this lady. So if we can take the 5 questions and then the panelists take time to respond to them and then we'll receive others.
Yes, my name is Annette, and this is a question to any of the panelists. So we are in an age of more consumption and less production. So really, how do you translate these skills and knowledge gained from the training programs that you offer to really be marketable and offer value to some of the social economic rights that we are facing as a continent? And then secondly, I would love to hear your thoughts on what are some of the spaces being created to foster youth dialogue on issues that affect us within the DNS. For example, the impact on new GTLDs and issues on security and stability. And lastly, what's the end game on some of the initiatives being created? For example, we've been hearing about hackathon programs, but as we all know, in hackathon programs, 1, 2, or 3 ideas get picked. So what happens to the rest that have potential, but they never made it till the end? Thank you.
So thank you. Just behind, there's another hand.
Yes, I'm called Vincent Mwando. And my question is that how can we balance between the 2 aspects of the short and the long-term goals? Because one of the speakers just said that the youth, some of the interests are not so much interested in the ideas of about the DNS and so on. But we know that we have the short and the long-term youth, those who want the long-term benefit and the short-term benefits. So how can we be able to balance and actually meet? Because I can say the youth that we are the youth and we are your people. So some of us are looking for the short-term goals, for example, short-term profits and so on benefits. Some are looking for the long-term. So what some of the initiatives we are bringing, how can they be able to actually administer to both the aspect of the short and the long-term? Then the second question is that how can you incorporate the various aspects of the internet aspect to be able to get so that we can be able to bring all the youth together
And for example, this is a DNS forum, right? But it makes others feel like they don't fit in. So how can we be able to innovate other aspects of the internet so that everyone can feel part and parcel of all the discussion going on about the internet? Thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of the Kenya IDF Youth Team.
Anyone on this side? Yes, just in front.
Yes, good morning. My name is Mark Oyomno. So my question is, you've talked about how you train youth on about DNS and how they can get this knowledge to do their daily practices in life. But my main question is, in these forums that you make these decisions, what do you do to ensure that you also include youth so that they are also included in the decision-making table? Because I can see that the leadership, such leaderships, I don't see young people taking part. So what are you doing to ensure that women and youths are also part of this, so that they don't only act as consumers who benefit from these trainings, but rather, what do you do to ensure that they also take part and make these decisions and also train other youths? Because actually, if you involve youths closely in this, then you will understand them more, you will understand what they need. Yeah. And then I will also ask this, you talked about Benin program for women. So I'm just asking, why would you choose to consider women instead of just people generally? What about men? Because some nowadays men are sidelined in very many things. They take men as strong people, but at the same time, we say everyone is equal. So why don't you, if you organize such forums for women, why don't you organize other similar forums for men too? Yeah, thank you.
That's a good question. So I think let's first let the panelists respond to this question. I don't know where we need to start. Rose, if you are ready. Si tu peux commencer par la dernière question.
Je vais rebondir sur la dernière question par rapport aux femmes. Le saviez-vous? Ada Lovelace est une des femmes pionnières de l'informatique. Donc, je puis dire que l'informatique, à la base, était lancée par des femmes. Car celle dont je parle, elle a créé le premier programme informatique. Mais aujourd'hui, est-ce que vous avez remarqué que les femmes, sur le plan technique, ne sont plus tellement intéressées? D'où ce creuser, cette activité du Benin DNS Women, du Benin DNS Forum, pardon, qui est le programme WDA Women DNS Academy, pour permettre aux femmes de revenir à la source, en fait, de pouvoir s'impliquer davantage aux questions liées à l'Internet et au DNS. Et pour renchérir, je vais dire, aujourd'hui, l'Internet est concerné partout. Tout le monde utilise Internet. L'informatique est devenue une compétence transversale, d'où tout le monde est demandé sur cette question qui est liée à Internet. Et lors de cet event Benin DNS Forum, comme je le disais tantôt, l'activité forum public regroupe justement tous les acteurs, tant de l'administration publique, privée, la société civile et l'utilisateur final de l'Internet. Donc, à cet événement qui regroupe près de 500 participants, vous avez également les jeunes, que ce soit des hommes ou des femmes, qui sont là pour discuter des enjeux qui sont liés à l'Internet. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Rose. Probably to just add on what she said, you ask why women? Why women? Why not men? So first of all, she's a woman. So I still believe she would wish to empower other women the same way I will do that. But we have a lot of initiative for men as well. It doesn't mean that the focus is only on that. but countrywide, there are a lot of initiatives to empower men as well. But at least what I wanted to comment is that we have seen a small number of women participation in this ecosystem. And that's why I think she focused on women. And to me, I have passion with women. I love to see women involved as well. So don't feel that you are left. There are quite a number of initiatives around that. So I will let the other panelists respond to some of other questions that were asked. Yes, please.
Quite a bold question, I have to say. I think I'll start at the last question. By the way, it will be quite funny as a male to speak to women issues. There's two things I always argue with my colleagues. When they plan a Women's Day, I always say to them, hey, guys, do it on your own. I'm not a woman. Come and tell me what you need from me to enable you to celebrate your Women's Day. Simply because the issues that are facing women, I cannot relate to them fully, but I know them. It is a known fact. You can look around the room. If you stand up and look, it's predominantly males. The question is it reflective of our society? We live in a society which is predominantly, we have a large number of women. So, whatever that we do, we need to aspire to be reflective of the society we live in and empower them equitably as males. Now, to share a personal story, I had a former colleague of mine whom I think now she has ascended to become a CIO of one of the universities in my country. When we were having a discussion with her, by that time, I think I was 26. And she was a little bit older. And I told her, you know what, ma'am, I have it better. At least, I have to deal with two issues of being Black and young in my country. You have to deal with multiple issues. One, you have to deal with being Black. Two, you have to deal with being young. Three, you have to deal with being a woman. Because there's this stereotype that, especially in IT and engineering, where you associate incompetence to gender. And in my country, it goes even further. I might be lynched for this, but it's a fact. They associate incompetence to youth and also your ethnicity. So these are issues that are faced by ourselves. So we need to provide these platforms, really being intentional in empowering women, because without that intent, we already know that they're disempowered. So now to address some of the other questions, I'll sort of club some of them together. The relevance of the skill sets, I think I touched on it too when I spoke about really augmenting the DNS with business skills and also policy making. It could be argued that by many, techies, you just need to know the technical side of things. But if you really want to run a business, you want to be relevant to business, you need to understand how to operate and function within that space. That's why we are extending it to also be inclusive of business etiquette, marketing, and all of those other softer skills. Now, the end game is to really capacitate as many youth as you can. Like I was saying, build enough critical mass such that either they become champions of your space. Secondly, they become employers, they become employable. I think it's a fight that we all have to really endeavor to get into, to really find ways, how do we empower youth? You don't want to leave a legacy to those that come after you, which feel disempowered, betrayed by yourself, especially if you are in a position of influence. Now, the platforms we are offering, there's a number of them. In the main, we will be starting a youth IGF this year. Actually, we're hosting it next week. It's the inaugural one. And then, of course, the other platforms, we always consult with youth formations. That's quite important. You can't really do something for youth without really engaging youth. And that's how we bring them on board. We are fortunate we have a youth ICT council in our country, which is also recognized and supported by our ministry. So we normally consult. We have built in the past couple of years a good rapport with them. We invite them to the sessions. We really open ourselves up to being criticized by them so that we understand really the issues affecting youth. Now, I've already touched on the end game, but I think the immediate goals is to just start the conversation, talk. And then the longer goals or long-term goals is to move away from talk shops. You know, I get irritated at times where we always talk, there's no action. I'm hopeful, this is now a plea to my counterpart, Barack. Whatever we discuss here is put together in a document, and it's really binding to all of those that are in this room and even outside and joining us online to say, what is it that you are going to do post the engagement, so that when we come back next year, we can really count and say, okay, from whatever we discuss, at least I did one of the things that we spoke about. Really, that's what we want to get to. And I think that's a much more philosophical aspect, but in essence, we just want to gain traction and some action out of whatever we do. I've spoken about inclusion. I think the last one about knowledge, knowledge is as useful as long as you really impart it onto someone and they share it. So for us, how we view it, we really want to give the skill sets to a person for them to be conversant or have a conversation with others around what DNS is, what the internet really is, and how can you explore any other opportunities within the space. I mentioned earlier on once about the mixture of the courses, and of course, this is my last comment. When we offer the skill sets for DNS practitioners, one of the aspects is to really say, what other technical skills can we give you? Designing, web development, and. Because really, when you talk about a domain, a DNS system, it's just one aspect. You have to capacitate that person with the ability to build products out of that domain name and to resell it to another person. So that's how we are saying we're bringing this knowledge together, the skill sets, and really trying. We can all try to empower youth as much as we can. Thank you.
Any comment from the other panelists? Anything that you want to add? Okay, so I think I'll just receive other questions from, yes, please.
Good morning once again. I'm Gacha Brian, a digital profile at Radicha. First of all, I would love to appreciate everyone offering us internships and resources, the capacity building. Actually, you're doing a great job. Now it's us, the youths now, to try to help you help us, because that's the way to go. So there was something I was trying to create, and I love your comments on that. I call it the code of conduct. A lot of people are being empowered, are trained here and there, but the soft skills we don't have. I learned there's something we call investor share value. If I come up with an innovation, how much will I give to an investor while still maintaining my company or stuff or something? But at first, we are not taught this. We only come to realize later something about taxes, some other things that are done. I would say the normal way things operate, but we are not taught. So our lab, as you're incorporating the internships and everything, also come to think of a code of conduct, something inclusive that cuts across almost everything. Innovation management skills, soft skills, teach something about the investor share value, so that when somebody is starting something, he'll have the end game in the just a kilometer away, not further. And that's what I wanted to some insight on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I still have seeing some hands on the other side, but before we receive them, there is a question here.
Thank you. So the question is from Aileen Quiponia. What are some of the initiatives already put in place to promote participation and engagement of the youth in the DNS and industry?
Good one. Let's just move the mic. I have seen 2 hands on the other side. 3.
Good morning, everyone. My names are Josephat. Mine is not actually a question. Mine is just to give a few things that are happening here locally, maybe for the youth, just to try help the panel. I work for the national KSAT. So there's some initiative which I would like to put out there for the youth to know what is happening. This is the October Cybersecurity Month here in Kenya. As we speak, we have 1,200 youths going through a bootcamp on training on cybersecurity. Started on 27 September, going until 7th. The lead students, a team of 15, are going to have some benefit. This is in terms of monetary. They're also going to get mentorship from the people in the industry. They'll also be taken through the process of certifying on some of the courses in cybersecurity. So those are the things that the youth can look out for. So one of them is such bootcamps where we organize a large number to be trained in partnership with teams like Huawei. I think this was mentioned in the first day. Another thing that is going, there is a hackathon also for youth, for students. This is happening, I think, on 12th and 13th of this month. At the moment, the registration is around 120. We're still looking for more to participate. And also there are these rewards that I had mentioned for this. These students will also be taken to the national conference that will be happening from 17th. Why the reason they are going there is just to make sure they interact with the people in the industry, and at least some of these can be guided on the career. So for my case, it's not actually a question to the panel, just is to raise an awareness on what is happening here in Kenya. And these details are available on our Twitter feed. Kindly check National KSAT, and you'll find the details of what I'm talking about. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to ask these questions. Okay, so number one is, now I want to ask, what are the best ways to engage with youths in terms of DNS industry? Because the truth is, when you most entrepreneur, most young people that are coming up with ideas, startups, and you come and you tell them about DNS, most of them don't even know what domain name space is all about, but they just want to get their business online, just want to come on board and start making money. And with opportunities that platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and the likes of them has provided for businesses, it's a kind of pushing away the DNS industry to one side. So what are the best ways we can handle this? What are the best ways we can engage with young youths, youths that are that are going into startups to actually pass or preach this message adequately? And then number two is, most times when you tell people about domain name space, DNS, and domain name, in quotes, so many people don't even understand. So many people don't even know what domain name is all about. And domain name has a lot of, it comes with a lot of other things attached to it. So what are the best, or how do you advise one can pass this message easily, like 1 or 2 words? Because attention span most these days is low. People tends to catch just very few things from all the things you've been saying. So what are the best ways you can pass this message, and it will get to the person you are talking to, and they will be able to comprehend easily what domain name is all about? So lastly, you're talking about the training. So I just want to ask, is the training just specific, or is it a kind of training that would train in a diverse fields? Because when we talk about domain name, there are a lot of other things that needs to come into play. So is it specific to particular, so what are the kind of cost contents that one should be expecting? Thank you.
Any last question? Yes, please.
Sorry, just to add on what he said, I would like to know more on the content of the training for the women training. So like he said, hey, is this specific on just what DNS is, or you guys go deeper to, are you focusing on open source or a particular product? So is it, you say also, training them to get them ready for the business out there, right? So if you can shed one light in, so like just the content, what it looks like, the training materials, what it looks like. So thank you.
So thank you so much. Let me start by my neighbor here, just to respond to some of the few questions, and then we can proceed.
Thank you for the questions. I think there was one we missed in the first round about hackathons. What happens to the pool of ideas that you generate from those hackathons? So how, even though we have not ran hackathons, my counterparts, what we normally would do, meaning other SOEs or state-owned entities, you run a hackathon, we bring business there and those that are possible investors to really, when the participants showcase their ideas or their products or services, even if they don't win, someone actually can have an engagement and really, you know, see if they can commercialize that idea or support them in their endeavor. So that's how you really build that catchment and ensure there's, you know, pipelines. The other thing is to really build a network. You must, well, how I view it is that in solving a problem, you will exhibit a specific set of skills. In those set of skills, there might be someone in that room that's able to leverage them and really take them up to build their own products. So that's how we, meaning myself and my other counterparts and partners, really engage in hackathons. One other interesting aspect from my department is we were tasked as state-owned entities that we have to build technovators, in a sense that when we run these hackathons, at least one of us or all of us have to adopt one young person or one idea and then assist them to commercialize it. So it is more of an obligation that is placed on us to really see how best can we assist or lessen the burden on these young entrepreneurs. Now, moving on the softer skills, it is our wish that beyond the DNS training, we really bring together other partners. We are in engagement with them, and simply saying we are talking to our National Youth Development Agency. We are also talking to the Small Business or Small Enterprise Development Agency and the Small Enterprise Funding Agency. The rationale behind it is to train the young people. Once we are trained, we bring in CEDA, NYDA to capacitate them with the softer skills to prepare them to acquire funding from CIFA. It's a model that has already been tried and tested by some of the colleagues within my country, where they already do that. They bring MIC CETA to train, and then they would now capacitate them with softer skills to ensure that their business case and also business plans are really sound and solid to prepare them for the last round of funding. It's not an easy journey. You do get dropouts along that journey because, you know, at times you have to prioritize earning a salary now or actually waiting for the gains at a later stage. In terms of social media, this question came up also yesterday. How we view social media, well, from Zetna's perspective is that it's not a competitor per se. People can use it as a conduit to actually expand their reach. In fact, one of our programs, we really entice young entrepreneurs to utilize social media platforms and bind it, of course, with their domain names. One thing that we tend to ignore is that a domain name gives a person, to a certain extent, digital visibility and credibility. So if you have that and you bind it to your social media, which offers you platforms for free, why not? up until you are able to build up. And as you scale up, then you can move on to having a fully fledged, presence or a store online. So really that's how we see matching the two together. And then of course, participation. As I've mentioned, we have a NYDA, which is of course across the country. We partner with them on a number of initiatives to bring, youth on board. One other thing, every municipality across the country, they would have in the mayoral office what we call a youth development officer. We try to build a relationship with as many youth development officers across the municipalities. And as a matter of fact, as we go into the communities and do outreaches and awareness campaigns, we liaise with the mayoral office to say, can you avail your YDO so that they can really bring youth to the party and also give us access to the people that they normally engage with. And of course, that results in a number of subsequent events where we now take over the relationship. We just report back to the YDOs and so forth. I think that's the response on my part. Thank you.
Any comment from the other panelists? Rose? You?
Oui, merci Grace. Je voudrais intervenir également sur le nom de domaine. Je vais aller un peu dans le plan technique ou plutôt terre à terre. Lorsque je prends par exemple DNS forum.bj ou women DNS.academy, c'est le nom, l'identité numérique que vous utilisez pour pouvoir nous retrouver. Imaginez que nous mettons à disposition des adresses IP comme 127.0.0.1, toutes ces adresses IP, en fait, ne pourraient pas se garder facilement en tête. Donc, les noms de domaine sont le mapping entre l'adresse IP et ces noms-là qui sont constitués à la fin des extensions des pays et tout. Donc, à ce niveau, c'est mon complément par rapport au nom de domaine. Et par rapport aux compétences plus générales en dehors du DNS, moi, je vous proposerai par exemple l'auto-apprentissage, l'e-learning. Donc, c'est de pouvoir vous-même aller à la recherche de votre compétence dont vous avez besoin. Et en général, aujourd'hui, c'est certainement des compétences assez transversales, un peu comme l'informatique. Et les conditions au niveau du e-learning, c'est un peu d'être assidu soi-même parce que dans ce cas, vous n'avez pas un professeur ou un enseignant ou un formateur à côté pour vous suivre lors de votre formation que vous suivez en ligne. Donc ça, c'est une première condition. Une autre condition est également de trouver un cadre de travail adéquat pour pouvoir vous former sur la compétence que vous recherchez. Et malgré ces conditions, il y a également des avantages. L'avantage est que vous pouvez rester à n'importe quel endroit, à n'importe quel moment, pour pouvoir apprendre ce que vous recherchez comme compétences. Ça, c'est également par rapport aux compétences. Et par rapport aux innovations, comme je le disais tout à l'heure, il y a le Bénin DNS Forum qui n'est plus à présenter avec ses grandes activités. Et comme mon prédécesseur l'a dit par rapport au hackathon, en fait, le hackathon regroupe les jeunes. Et ces jeunes, c'est y compris les hommes et les femmes, pour pouvoir implémenter le dispositif Internet, si je puis dire ainsi. Merci bien.
Merci beaucoup, Rose. Just to conclude, and to respond to one of the questions that was addressed from this young person, I have a passion for youth and women. I love training. I love when I see people who are skilled and who can take another level to the leadership position that you mentioned about and decision making. So to us, to the youth who are still in the room, I'm still considering myself a youth because I still believe there is a lot to learn. The ball is in our hands. So there are a lot of initiatives you have heard from the panelists from your respective countries. There is a lot that you still need to learn for you just to climb and be positioned in what you wanted as a leader, to be part on the table where you can make a decision. So take this time to learn, and learn. So I will let the other panelists to give their closing remarks, starting from my brother.
Thank you very much. I think there isn't much to add other than to say the road is quite long, especially for African youth. Most importantly, what one has to ask themselves is, how do we build a future that you think you can live in? And I think that should be a guiding principle for those that are in positions of power and influence, because you know, we tend to be accused of just living for the moment and not being considerate of youth. So that should be the question that always drives. What legacy are you leaving behind? And those that come after you, how will they judge you for that legacy you have left them? So those will be my parting remarks as I hand over to my other panelists. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone for this session. I think for me, the closing remarks, I'll only focus on what I've talked about schools. I think we should focus more on teacher training that will trickle down to the students. I think through partnerships and then through sponsorship, if you can get to support, especially the public schools, and also through engaging the governments, I think that will be really important for us. Yeah, thank you.
Rose.
Oui, merci Grace. Moi, je pense que tant qu'il y a à faire, c'est que nous ne devons pas baisser les bras. Et quand je prends le programme en WDA avec 700 inscrits, plus de 700 inscrits, et il n'y a que 150 formés, ça veut dire qu'il y a encore du travail à faire. Et j'en appelle encore aux décideurs, aux organisations nationaux et internationaux à pouvoir intervenir pour pouvoir permettre aux jeunes femmes et aux jeunes filles précisément, je n'oublie pas les hommes bien sûr, de pouvoir s'intéresser encore plus aux questions liées à l'Internet et au DNS. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Rose. Yes, please.
Pardon, on a une personne en ligne qui souhaiterait prendre la parole en tant que formateur principal de la formation au Bénin. Monsieur Hervé Ounzanji. Est-ce que je peux lui donner la parole?
Il est en ligne?
Oui.
Il n'y a pas de problème, on peut lui donner 1 minute.
Merci.
Ouais.
Est-ce que, Monsieur Hervé Ounzanji, est-ce que vous nous entendez?
Bonjour, est-ce que vous m'entendez? Allô, bonjour, est-ce que vous m'entendez? Ok. Bon, bonjour à tous, bonjour à l'Assemblée. Je suis fier d'avoir Rose parmi vous parce que Rose, comme vous l'avez remarqué, elle a été une des boursières de notre programme qui s'appelle Women DNS Academy. J'ai voulu intervenir sur le contenu parce que beaucoup de participants posaient la question sur le contenu de la formation. En fait, nous, on s'est dit, bon, de toute façon, on va travailler sur tout ce qui est l'univers du logiciel libre. Donc, moi, en tant que formateur principal, je vais vous dire exactement ce que nous faisons. C'est pas sorcier, hein. On prend 25 femmes ou 20 femmes selon les moyens qu'on a réussi à regrouper. On le met dans une salle. On a 20 PC. Sur chaque PC, on essaie d'installer ensemble une solution Linux. Souvent, on utilise Debian. Ensuite, on présente le fonctionnement du DNS parce qu'il y a beaucoup de gens, même dans nos universités, hein, il y a des ingénieurs qui sortent de formation Bac+5, mais qui ne savent pas aujourd'hui comment fonctionne le DNS. C'est-à-dire une requête DNS qui part d'un PC, comment ça se passe derrière jusqu'à ce que ce PC obtienne l'IP ou le nom de serveur. Ça, je vous jure qu'il y a beaucoup de gens qui ne savent pas. Donc, on fait d'abord la présentation, on leur montre comment ça fonctionne, Et après, tout le reste, c'est formation technique et pratique. C'est-à-dire que à partir de la mise en place des machines virtuelles, on installe un serveur DNS primaire, on installe un DNS secondaire, on fait des présentations de fichiers de zone, comment on déclare une machine, comment on fait un transfert de zone, comment on peut sécuriser le DNS, et on va jusqu'à mettre en place le DNSSEC. Voilà, c'est de façon concrète, c'est ce que nous faisons. Et après, quand nous finissons ce côté pratique, nous invitons souvent, on invite ICANN pour expliquer le travail de ICANN. Nous invitons un professionnel qui est déjà sur place dans le pays pour expliquer aux filles comment l'économie du DNS peut se faire. C'est-à-dire que je suis un bureau d'enregistrement, comment je peux gagner ma vie, comment je peux fonctionner, voilà. Donc, de façon concrète, voilà ce que nous faisons comme formation. Et on est disponible à vous faire partager le contenu. Le support, c'est moi qui le fais, toute la rédaction, Donc, si vous voulez participer, on vous invite, vous pouvez venir à Cotonou. D'ailleurs, la prochaine édition, je suis intervenu hier pour présenter le cas du Bénin DNS Forum. Et la prochaine édition, c'est du 8 au 12 à Cotonou. Donc, vous êtes les bienvenus, vous pouvez venir voir comment ça fonctionne. Et nous, on est prêts aussi à venir vous voir dans vos pays respectifs et vous aider et vous montrer comment ça fonctionne. Par ailleurs, on le fait tout le temps à Cotonou, mais moi, j'ai déjà eu la possibilité d'aller le faire aussi en Côte d'Ivoire avec les filles. Et je trouvais que c'était très bien. Il nous manque un peu de moyens pour généraliser encore dans d'autres pays francophones. Voilà, merci beaucoup de m'avoir donné la parole. Et pour finir, je voudrais quand même dire que tout ce que nous faisons au Bénin n'est possible que grâce à certaines personnes que je tiens quand même à remercier, parce que moi, je parle, mais eux, ils sont derrière. Il y a Mathias Rungbo, il y a Haman Oubia, il y a Yazid Akanho, il y a Roméo Ntonji. Voilà, il y a plein de gens derrière qui travaillent et je tiens aussi à les remercier pour le travail qu'ils font. Voilà, merci beaucoup de m'avoir donné la parole.
Oui, merci beaucoup Hervé. Nous t'invitons aussi dans nos pays, essayer de venir nous voir et de nous partager les programmes que vous faites. So we are going to conclude here. Let's take time to just give a round of applause to our panelists. They have done a good job. So before they leave here, we just need to take a group photo. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Grace. And
recording stopped.
There'll be a photo session. As they take the photo, I would like to invite the next panel to join me up on the stage. So the next panel is going to look at promoting innovation in the DNS ecosystem in Africa. And we'll have Yazid from ICANN. I think Yazid will be joining us later. We'll have Dusan from Grancy, if you could kindly me up on the stage. Eduardo, I don't know if Eduardo is already online, if he can be promoted to be a panelist. Okay, Yazid, kindly join me up. All right, thank you very much. Is Eduardo online, Magali? Thank you. So without further ado, I think I will start with a quick introduction. I'll start with Dusan since he's already on the stage. If you could introduce yourself, then Yazid, then we'll
recording
have,
in progress.
Also introduce himself, and then we'll start with the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Barak. I'm Dusan Stoicevic. I'm representing Grency, ICANN accredited registrar, but also DNS service provider, ANICAS DNS service provider, and provider of a huge variety of services for registrars, resellers, and the registries itself.
Yazid, please.
Thank you, Barak. So I'm Yazid Akanwo. I'm from ICANN Technical Engagement Team. We are part of the department we call the Office of the CTO. And at Technical Engagement, we are mainly in charge of promoting the DNS and the internet standards and best practices with the community, mainly with the, I would say, the technical part of the community, the internet service providers, the registries, the registrars, the DNS operators in general. We also work a lot with regulators and government agencies. And yes, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eduardo, if you could kindly introduce yourself once again.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Eduardo Alvarez. I'm part of the Global Domains and Strategy Division at ICANN, and I will be speaking about a new tool that was implemented by ICANN to survey support for email address internalization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. So in this session, we are going to be looking at promoting innovation in the DNS ecosystem in Africa. And the session is going to explore emerging trends insofar as innovation of the domain name system is concerned in the African continent and beyond. So we have been discussing a lot of innovative solutions and products that have been coming up in the DNS ecosystem. And we are going to hear from the panelists who are not only players in the ecosystem, but are key in some of the innovations that have been coming up in the DNS ecosystem, and they'll be sharing with us what they have been doing. After that, we'll open the floor to the audience once again for questions and comments that will enrich this conversation. So I'll request Dusan to start off the conversation, and after Dusan, we will have Yazid, and then we'll have Eduardo in that order. So Dusan, you have the floor.
Thank you. Like my colleague from KeNIC, who doesn't like presentations, I also don't believe in presentations. So I will speak from my head about what I've heard so far, because as you know, I'm not from Africa. I'm following closely the market because we are dealing the domain names in Africa also, and we have a lot of partners. In fact, KeNIC is one of our clients, so sort of they are using our ANICAST service. But back to the topic. Before I start any talk about DNS, I must reflect on the fact that this is 10th anniversary of Africa DNS Forum. I was on a couple of them, and yesterday someone told us that these 10 years were like a development stage for Africa regarding DNS. Then we heard a lot of questions, and there is a lot of questions who are still not answered from yesterday. For example, there was a session yesterday about policy, and there was two really interesting questions. One was about drop catching. Second one was about registrant, let's say, misunderstanding in their relationship. Regarding those questions, I must say that Barak have next 10 years to solve education, workshops, to teach you how you can deal with drop catching, how you can deal with these evil registrar things. Also, I must say that the answer to both of those questions is rather simple. So not very complex. Regarding drop catching, the answer is in the question. Question was that somebody was sleeping and not renewing the domain name. Sorry, guys, it cannot happen. Then drop catching is first come, first serve. Everything is okay. On the other side, registrar who doesn't follow the orders are losing accreditation if he is evil registrar. That's by the rules of CCTLDs. So I must again highlight that Barak, as a CEO of Africa TLD, and me as manager in Grancy, who is the company is member, associated member of FTLD, APTLD, Asia Pacific, then Center at LACNIC, LACTLD. We are associated members of all of these kind of associations of CCTLDs and registrars. I must say he will have very tense and very, let's say, next 10 years will be full of workshops, of educations, of like it is in all of the continents that we are seeing. So it's not that they are so much advanced than you, but you can copy paste a lot of practices that they are doing, and also Barak can copy paste a lot of things that other organizations are doing. My story about innovation, about DNS, is something that is not so covered in DNS sphere, but it's very realistic when it comes to real life. So you know that there is a conflict, let's say war conflict between Russia and Ukraine. My story is not about that. It's about one specific thing that was happening with Ukrainian CCTLD registry, especially .gov.ua. It was 10 days before all that war conflict started. There was a huge DDoS attack on .gov.ua websites. All of them were down. So the completely Ukrainian government was down. It was happening around 16th of February this year. I got a call from head of Ukrainian CCTLD for a help. How can one ICANN accredited registrar, ENICAS DNS provider help Ukrainian registry? Simple, by ENICAST. ENICAST is the technology who is giving you powerful defense from this kind of attacks, from DDoS attacks. You know what is DDoS. So we immediately set up the zone and everything with him because it is automatic with us. In a matter of 20 minutes, all websites from the government were back online, all visible, all usable, all in good shape. What it means? It means that DDoS cannot hurt an ENICAST network. ENICAST is another name for your secondary DNS, for the zone, for your root zone of CCTLD. And by using this kind of service, you are protecting your CCTLD from a lot of attacks, a lot of especially this kind of attack. As I said, we have a lot of, let's say, clients, but friends who are using our ENICAS DNS. One of them is KeNIC itself. So, and you can check that in IANA tables. This is the story that is bringing you what is happening also in ICANN surrounding. So back in Kuala Lumpur, the major topic was DNS abuse. And this is, I think, for 3 or 4 years that this is the major topic on ICANN meetings and major concern how to deal with criminal activities and abuses of DNS. In this story that I was telling you about, this is practical example how you are treating these kind of attacks, how you are dealing with them successfully, and how you are going to provide a security for your users as a CCTLD or registrar, because we have a lot of registrars who are using ENICAS DNS service for their clients, for security of their clients. And this is the story that I will let you conclude what is the next step in your way of treating criminal activities on internet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eduardo, are you ready and do you have a presentation?
Yes, I am ready and I can share my own screen if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, is my screen visible? It should be a blue title slide.
Yes, your screen is visible.
Thanks, appreciate it. Okay, well, thank you very much for having me here. I'll move to a very different topic from my colleague Jason here. I wanted to present to you this new tool that has a purpose of measuring or surveying email servers across TLDs in second level registrations for proper support of email address internationalizations. Let us start. So as part of ICANN's work on universal acceptance, we deployed this tool and survey that we're running quarterly across all of GTLDs to measure and evaluate the status and progress over time on universal acceptance readiness. The purpose, as I mentioned before, is to survey the support on EAI or email address internationalization on mail exchanger servers in second level domain names across TLDs. This tool uses as input TLD song files, the public DNS information, and it will produce as output a list classified per TLD, country, and the level of support of the second level domain names, the MX servers found for these second level domain names, and the IP addresses that the MX servers resolve to. For a quick overview on the process on how we evaluate the support for EAI on email servers, we do it in three main steps. First is taking the TLD song files and get the list of all of the second level domains that are registered, and then query the DNS for any existing MX records that are found for those second level domain names, and then their corresponding IP addresses that they resolve to. As the second part of the survey, for each of the IP addresses that were obtained in this process, the tool will retrieve the IP geolocalization details for statistical purposes, and then perform a test of 3 steps as described below with 2 different internationalized email addresses. That is, email addresses that are using non-Latin characters that are required to support internationalized domain names that are basically not English, not Latin. So will be characters in Cyrillic, in Arabic, for Chinese language, etc. The 3 steps or the main tests that are performed is sending an extended hello command to the survey server and look in the response for the specific header SMTP UTF-8, which is defined in the RFC 6531 for internationalized domain names. Then if that first test is successful, then it will proceed, the tool will proceed to send a mail from command with one of these test addresses that are using non-Latin characters and validate for a 250 response, which means that the server is accepting this transaction. And if that's successful, then the test ends and it's registered as proper EAI support for the email server, and it quits. It just repeats it once again with these 2 test addresses, where the only difference is we're using the domain name as an ASCII label or Punycode, which is these domain names that look like XN, hyphen, and then a set of characters. And the second test email addresses use the domain name in the U label form or Unicode, which is the proper script or non-Latin, non-ASCII characters. Then lastly, it's just storing the results for each survey IP addresses, and it will classify, group by MX server, the support rate, which can be any of full support if all of the IP addresses of the mail server passed the test, partial support if some did but some didn't, or no support if none of the IP addresses passed the test. For a quick example of how this transaction would look, or if we were to run this test manually, connecting to a specific email server, this is how the exchange would look, where the lines preceded by the C or client prefix are the ones that our tool will send as part of the survey, and the lines preceded with the S or server are the server responses as a result. So first, the tool connects to the server. If the connection is successful, we see it highlighted in blue. It sends the extended hello or LO test, identifying itself. and it will check for the server response, which would normally include all of the headers that are supported in the email server. The survey tool will specifically look for the header of SMTP UTF-8, which is the one which is highlighted in red in the screen. And if that's present, that's a successful test. And it will proceed to send the mail from command, which is the third one here in blue. We can see it's a mail from, and then all of these Cyrillic characters forming an internationalized email address and the corresponding header. And then it will look for a successful response, which is code 250, and not any of the other error responses, which can be anything from temporary messages, which are the 400 codes, or just plain old errors, which are the 500 codes. And then you just record the result and terminate the connection with a quit command. It does not proceed to send any emails whatsoever. It just starts the transaction to verify that it is accepted. For a quick description of the tool, well, it's implemented in Java. It relies on Apache Maven to be deployed. There are some other dependencies to run, like the Java runtime environment, which should be Java 8 or later. It relies on Docker, uses MariaDB, and then there's a couple of other dependencies. NoSQL is used for an optional step in the process to export to a cloud solution for data warehousing. It's not necessary. And all of these details and more are available in the web page that is in the bottom of the slide, github.com/icon/EAI-survey-tool, where the source code of the tool is available for anyone that wants to use it or just check what it is doing. As part of the output that the tool generates, this is the data model. It's 4 main tables that are in the upper side of the screen. It tracks the progress of the survey in different steps of the process. Then the record table is the table for all of the second level domain names that are parsed from the TLD zone files provided as input. The MX table is the one that will register all of the MX records found for those second level domain names. And then the IP table is the one that will store each of the IP addresses that the MX records result to and the corresponding result of the test I described before. Then on the bottom part, we just have relational tables to complete this. This data model ensures that each IP address is tested only once, regardless of how many MX servers might result to the same IP address. So some third-party services used by our tool, ICANN is currently running it in an Amazon Web Services virtual environment. This helps test it from a third-party neutral server, not ICANN's infrastructure or anything special. But of course, the tool can run in any environment that has the Java runtime environment and the dependencies I mentioned earlier. It relies on Google's public resolver to resolve the second level domain names, look for the MX records and the IP addresses that it resolves to. And it uses MaxMind, is the company or a service that provides IP geolocalization data. So every IP address that is tested, in order to find which country is registered on, it relies on this service to get that information. And finally, Snowflake, that's the cloud solution for data warehousing that I mentioned, that the tool supports the option to export it to. It's used by ICANN, but it's not necessarily to use every time the survey runs. Some things to consider: the tool does have some mechanism to mitigate false negatives. Where the tool is running, the server has a fully functional SMTP or email server configured to receive emails from any of the test addresses that we use in our survey. It uses load balancing between 2 IPv4 and 2 IPv6 addresses to distribute the load. And we have switched to different IP addresses to avoid any blocking on block lists or malware lists that we monitor to make sure that we're not added to from time to time. As I mentioned before, the survey tool does not send any emails at all, any unsolicited emails. It just initiates the transaction, verifies the proper response, and terminates. And IP addresses are tested only once, as facilitated by the data model of the tool. There is a maximum number of retries that can be configured. Currently, we just try each IP address once. And if we were to try more, but we're not doing that, there's a 30-second wait period before retesting that IP address again. And there are also wait times implemented between IP addresses that are within the same /16 IPv4 address block or /48 IPv6 block or network to prevent any rate limiting or perception of any sort of like attack. Some known issues. There are automated DNS block lists here. We know, we're aware, and unfortunately, there's no way around it. These anti-spam traps basically are email servers that are published in the DNS, but are not really functional. They're just waiting for some tool like ours that finds them in the DNS. If they get contacted, then they will immediately flag the server or the IP addresses as spam or unsolicited mail sender. So we know that that's an issue that unfortunately we have to live with. And also, there can be other email servers with very strict security policies that whenever contacted from an unknown server, like our survey tool, then it's also likely that they might flag them as spammers or some other bad actor, even though it's not sending any emails, just by the only fact of being contacted or in connecting to those servers. To explain a little bit what the type of results that our survey tool generates, here's a summary table. While the tool persists all of the individual results of all tested IP addresses, we do generate some aggregate statistics. And as I mentioned before, we run the survey on a quarterly basis. So here are the last 3 surveys we run, starting January, April, July, and we're currently running the survey for October, but it's not available yet as it's still running. It takes a couple of days to run. But here are the main details. We can see that in each survey, we switched the script used for the test email addresses to make sure it's not biased to any specific language or script. We don't see any particular variation on the results, so that's a good sign. The survey has been executed using all available GTLD zone files, which are the ones that ICANN has access to, which is 1173, and minus some revocations that have happened along this past year. And then how many, the sample size, how many MX servers or email servers we have found is roughly little over 35 million. And these result up to a total of 2.5. Last survey, there was a slight drop to 2.4 million IP addresses that are unique. And overall, we see a relatively small percentage of IP addresses that are actually passing the test, which is ranging from 7.24% in January, slightly going up to 7.38% on July. These are the email servers or the IP addresses that have passed all 3 tests as I described with both forms of the test address. We do see a big percentage, approximately 1/3, which is 32 to 33% of IP addresses that could not be tested. This means that the server either did not respond to the tool when performing the survey, or refused the connection, or responded with some other temporary SMTP code, for example, to that the service is not available, or some other result code. This also includes special use IP addresses that are not tested, which include, for example, private addresses, for example, in IPv4, the 10 point so-and-so C block for the network, and similar addresses, those fall in this category. And then the IP addresses that are failing the test, which means the email server did respond to the survey, and but it either did not have the SMTP UTF-8 header indicating support for internationalized email address, or it did have the header, but it failed the test where it would accept the sender email address with an internationalized email address. Those would fall in this category, which is roughly from 59.93% in January, and with a slight decrease to 59.30% in the last survey in July. We'll see what the results say in October and hopefully track this progress over time. If we were to look at these results, not from the IP address level, but go into the MX server level, which is these 35 million unique MX servers that are found, we see slightly more promising results, meaning that most of these MX servers are pointing to these 7.20-something% of IP addresses that have valid email address internationalization support. So we see a good increase from 19.95% of MX servers with full support to 20.98 in July for MX servers with full support, meaning all of the IP addresses passed the test for those MX servers. A very small percentage of the MX servers that have partial support, which is kind of expected. It's kind of strange that some of the IP addresses are configured correctly, but some aren't. So that might mean some issue in configuration or some instances of the email server not being configured properly or something similar, but we see that's only 0.02% of the outcome. But we still see a similar or a consistent result for those MX servers that have no support, which is still about 2/3 of the sample, 67%, slowly going down, which is a good thing. In July, our last complete survey went down to 65.21% of MX servers with no support. We also have some categories for MX records that could not be tested. Again, for timeouts, refused connection, or special use IP addresses, or that did not really resolve. That did have the MX record in the DNS, but no corresponding A or quad A records to reach an actual IP addresses. We see that 6.33% in January and up to 6.80 in the last survey from July. That's also an interesting fact to consider. Some other interesting statistic that the tool can generate. We can see these same results per TLD. So that might be interesting to registry operators to understand the email servers used in their second level registrations, maybe reach out to hosting providers, just email server providers, or so if they're connected. That can be interesting, in particular to ccTLDs as well, since they may have some better relationship with service providers as gTLDs, but in general, that information is available. The geolocation information for IP addresses can also be helpful to just see this information in terms of on a per country basis. Again, we see that, for example, some countries don't really have any IP addresses that were resolved in our survey, but which are marked here in gray, but others, the ones that are blue, and the deeper the blue, the bigger the support rate is. For example, we see several countries in Africa. The only caveat with this graphic is that countries with fewer IP addresses are likely to reflect higher rates if they are if the EAI support is there successfully. So that's only one thing to consider and just one way to present the information that the tool generates. So some of the next steps on our tool, we are consistently trying to improve the survey tool and implement additional options. We're working to publish these metrics in the Office of the CTO's webpage for the Identifier Technology Health Indicators, or ATHI metrics. That's work in progress, and we hope to have that very soon. We're also working on implementing in the tool functionality to identify the email server software based on the test results, which can help us pinpoint if we can reach out to someone in particular to work on their EAI support, or understand why those may or have higher or lower support rates in the overall DNS. Among other features that we want to add, as well as support for checking other RFC implementations, SMTP over TLS, star TLS, support for null MX, and so on, among other improvements. Lastly, as I was saying before, just CCTLDs are not considered in this survey because ICANN does not have their access to their zone files. So we encourage and invite CCTLD registry operators to run this tool on their own zone files to get a sense of how this EAI support rate looks across second-level registrations. Or if they're interested, they can also consider asking ICANN to run the survey for them. If they provide access to the zone files, we can certainly do that. Anyone interested can contact us at globalsupport@icann.org. And that's it for me. I'm happy to take any questions if there's time.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. Over to you. Thank you for the presentation. We'll come back for questions and answers. Please note them down. For now, I'll move to Yazid for his presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you, Barak. I'm going to share my presentation. So here we are. Cool. Thank you. So hi, everyone, again. I'm going to talk a little bit about our CCTLD's resilience. And we are going to go through some kind of figures. Some of them are quite strange, but don't worry, we'll discuss about them. So very briefly, we have today 54 CCTLDs. CCTLDs mean two-letter country code, top-level domains, but we also have 6 IDNs, country code top-level domain today. And so far, from 1990, when the first two-letter CCTLD was delegated, up to 2011, when the last one, which was South Sudan, was delegated, we have seen kind of increase in terms of overall resiliency, overall diversity also in terms of authoritative name servers, where the zone 5 are actually served to the public of the internet. But we have also noticed that this diversity has bring another kind of issues, and we'll discuss about some of them at the end of the presentation. At the first Africa DNS Forum back in 2013, there were only 5 CCTLDs which were signed at that time. But today, out of the 54 CCTLDs, I mean the two-letter CCTLDs, we have 17 that are fully signed, and we have 3 of the IDN CCTLDs which are also signed. So in terms of percentage, we are running around 50% for the IDNs, but around 30%, I think, for the two-letter country code top-level domain. So a lot of work has been done in terms of DNSSEC deployment, thanks to one of the key projects in the region, which was called the DNSSEC Roadshow. And yes, we are happy to have Alain Aina around, who was in charge of this DNSSEC Roadshow. And at that time, we had up to 10 CCTLDs who really signed via this project. Now, when we go to, let's say, the details of the configuration in terms of the infrastructure of those CCTLDs, the first comment here is about the name server set, those authoritative name server list, which are provided by the CCTLD to ICANN to be published to the root zone. When we compare this with the detail within the zone itself, some of them are well aligned. On the two-letter CCTLD, we have 94%, which is quite good, but there are 3 of them which actually needs to take some actions, and on the IDN CCTLDs, 50% of them, because it's 3 of them actually which are not aligned. And this creates a kind of latency in the resolution, in the DNS resolution process for the sub-level domains, for the second-level domain, under those TLDs. And for the end user, the direct consequence is that there will be some additional time to access the content they want to access, because some requests will fail because of this DNS request, which actually went to an inexisting DNS server or a wrong IP, which could not actually provide the answer. So sometimes we have seen some CCTLDs who do not take care of this kind of control to perform, and it's quite important to actually do it. Back to DNSSEC, I mentioned before that on the 2-letter CCTLDs, we have 17 who are signed, which is 31%. We have 2 or 3 of them who are running some tests. It has been some time. But we still have 35 out of the 54 who are not yet signed. I hope we'll discuss why in the Q&A session. But the need to increase DNSSEC adoption is really a serious concern. Mainly these days, we are having those, cybersecurity issues and all those attacks on the internet. There are different reports available on the internet, which actually provide some key figures on the number of phishing attacks or malware, domain, all those what we call the DNS abuse attacks. Of course, DNSSEC is not going to protect for all of them, but again, there is no single solution that fits all. So cybersecurity is an overall strategy, and one should definitely think of adding DNSSEC into the cybersecurity strategy. So when we look into the details of DNSSEC, because DNSSEC is a set of different parameters, I hope you can all see the data there. So like I said before, we have 17 CCTLDs that have signed. So when we look at the parameters they are using, mainly the signing algorithms they are using, 75% of them are still using one of the algorithms we are now telling the community to move from, because there is one new security algorithm which is called ECDSA, which provide better, results in terms of the size of the signed zone. So basically what it is, with ECDSA algorithm, with a very short key, you can actually provide the same level of security as you are using a very long RSA key. And the direct impact on this is if you are using the new recommended algorithm, you may actually increase the zone transfer duration. For instance, the zone transfer is when you are moving one zone file from the main server to the secondary servers. So I will say the time, right, for all your infrastructure to actually share the same zone file will be much reduced if you are using this new algorithm. Mainly in this Africa region, where we all know how internet is. The second advantage of using ECDSA algorithms is also that it reduces overall the resources consumptions on your server, the encrypting or the signing infrastructure, but also your memory and the bandwidth you are going to use, just because the signed zone file has been really reduced in terms of size. On the other side, to establish what we call the chain of trust, the zone administrator has to share what we call the delegation signer with the parent. And here also there are some key recommendations. Using SHA-1 is no longer recommended because of some attacks which have been identified by the cryptography, ecosystem. So we really recommend all those CCTLDs that are not following the best practices to actually think of implementing them on the infrastructure. There is also another parameter which is called the proof of non-existence, still related to DNSSEC. We have two versions of them. One is NSEC and the second one is NSEC 3. So on the NSEC 3, there are different set of parameters to use, and this year there have been a new request for comment, a new recommendation from Internet Engineering Task Force. And basically they recommend to use some specific parameters, but when we compare those parameters against what CCTLDs have implemented, there is also some adjustments to do there. And yes, for some of them, it's quite, I would say, strange why some parameters have been used, but it definitely affects the way the DNS resolution also occurs, and it could negatively impact the performance of the zone. Then on IPv6 adoption, so far it seems that most of our CCTLDs, almost all of them, have at least one of their name servers that is a dual stack. We have unique count of name servers for all the 54 CCTLDs. There are 218 individual authoritative name servers. And so far we have 64% of them which are dual stack. Dual stack means that they have IPv4 and IPv6 together. And on the IDN side, we have 31 authoritative name servers for the 6 CCTLDs. And so far, 20 of them are dual stack, while the others are only IPv4. So we also noticed that there are 1 or 2 CCTLDs which are running on the only IPv4. None of the name servers have an IPv6. Now, coming to the diversity in terms of distribution of the zone file, where the zone file of the CCTLD is actually present in terms of networks. We can see also that there is a good distribution here, and some CCTLDs even have up to 7 different networks where the zone file is actually present. So in terms of resiliency, it's something quite good and good to encourage. But we also noticed that some CCTLDs only have one network where the zone file is present. It's actually risky. One could remember the incident we faced with Facebook last year. It is not directly related, but it is also part of the issue that happened. So basically, the risk is that if this network is unavailable, the zone file is also unavailable. Very simple. So the more you make your zone file present in different networks, and what does it mean? It means that your authoritative name servers, the servers which answer your zone, you need to make sure that you have different servers in different networks, in different locations. Out of the 218 individual name servers, 14 of them are actually responding within 2 ASNs, which is also quite good. So there is, in terms of reachability of those name servers, there is also a kind of 2 ways to reach the name servers, and which is quite good. But 14 out of 218, it's still less. Okay, so we need to continue the effort to increase the resilience on that side as well. And now, when we look at all those 218 name servers, in which network are they located? This is also something interesting. It's the table on your right side. You can see that. This is only showing the top 10 of the network. So 31 name servers are located in WoodyNet network. 25 name servers are located in Afrique KeNIC, because Afrique is actually providing a secondary name server service to our CCTLDs. 10 are in RIPE network. And yes, 6 to 9 in the other networks. This actually also show how distributed are African CCTLDs. I mean the name servers, the physical name servers. It could has been good. I'm not saying that it's bad, but it could has been good to see that an African network is on top of that, right? Yes. So going now to other areas of resilience, our CCTLDs. There are many areas, so you know. A parameter of the CCTLD, I mean an administrative parameter, is called the start of authority. Is a resource record which actually holds a lot of information on how your domain is administered and how your name servers also talk to each other and how they serve the zone file. We have also seen that sometimes some CCTLDs provide different what we call the serial number. The serial number is actually the key information that tells you the version, I would say, the version of the information you are providing. And sometimes some CCTLD provide 2 or more versions of the zone. This is quite also bad because at the point of time, you don't know which of all those information you can trust, right? Normally, you have to do your best to provide only one zone file at a time. We also have some configurations on the timers, which are not really following the best practices and which could actually affect the way your CCTLD operates and the way, very simple example, I go to a register for a domain name, but unfortunately, because the registry did not set the right timers, I could have to wait 4 hours before my domain information are published on the internet. We also have some lame delegations issues, eDNS, because today the way the internet is evolving, the DNS also is evolving, and we should be aware of all of these, I would say, new functionalities and make sure that our different name servers implement them for better resilience of our DNS again. Yes, a lot of missing or out of date documentation, architecture of our infrastructure. This is maybe not directly related, or it is not maybe directly affecting the performance, but think of an issue you are facing, how long it will take to your team to react if they do not have a proper documentation of your infrastructure. And mainly here in our region, where the turnover of the teams, of the staff, I mean, is quite very short, because people are looking after opportunities and so forth. So documenting your infrastructure and all your procedures are very important and could actually impact your resilience. So I will end up with some questions. How to improve Africa CCTLD's resilience, how to improve the overall operations to reduce the likelihood of breaking the services, how to also increase DNSSEC adoption at the CCTLD, but also at the second level domain, mainly today, where in most of the countries the governments are going for digitalization. We are improving online transaction, financial transactions. So all of this must be secured, but how can we achieve that at the registry level? So for us at the technical engagement team, I can provide some answer of what we have been doing. We have been doing some training and capacity building around overall DNS operations and best practices. So it's not only related to configuration, but we also support in terms of change management, incident management processes, monitoring. It's also extremely important. Support on DNSSEC deployment. We have published a guidebook to make it very easy to people to understand what it is to deploy DNSSEC. And we also support in terms of implementing the test bed and assisting in terms of writing the procedures. Of course, we want to write the procedures for you, but we can guide you, we can help you, we can share with you what has been done and what is, I would say, the state of the art, right, on this regard. But sometimes, yes, unfortunately, I would say, we are seen as very rigorous in our way to proceed. And yes, sometimes people feel like we are pushing too much, but we are just following the best practices, and we do as much as we can to follow what the best people on this ecosystem are also doing, right? New initiatives also we are running. The latest one is kindness. So for those who are interested in kindness, you can go to our booth. Kindness is actually a new project to self-assess yourself as DNS operator, and how do you do in terms of following and implementing the best practices, you know, in your operations and in your infrastructure. So yes, that's almost it from my side. Our role is limited. We can just advise you, we can just support you, but at the end of the day, you are the one who must do. You are also the one who should come to us and tell us what you need, right? So that's it. And for those who are interested in getting in touch with us, please drop us an email to octo@ican.org, and we will always be happy to contact you and support. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Yazid, for that presentation. Now we have 4 minutes before lunchtime. Do we have any questions on the room or comments? I see Alain Aina. I'll be going very fast. Any question or query? I'll just take one round and then they will make, the panelists will make their closing remarks. All right, seeing no other question, must have been very technical. Alain, please.
Okay, Alain Aina again, AFNOG. Yeah, thank you, Yazid, and I think this is very good stuff, and I like to see more of this being presented and discussed. But you know, something worry me when I can. Then you present good stuff. Then you have to insist to say, "Oh, our role is limited." We know your role is limited, but why do you need to tell us, "Oh, this is good things we do, but our role is limited"? So we know your role is limited, but but don't. It look like you give all the good stuff at some point. Then you say, "Hey, please remember that." Okay, yeah. And okay, then the other thing maybe is this part of the other projects, DNS Health Indicator project. You know, Duran was doing a big project on the DNS Health Indicator. So is it part of it, or can you just tell me a little bit about where are we with the DNS Health Indicator project? Thank you.
Thank you, Alain. Prof, are you asking for the mic or you are? Okay. Landry? I hope my panelists can be quick with their answers, please.
Okay. Bon, OK. J'ai une question. Vous avez présenté des statistiques tout à l'heure en ce qui concerne la redistribution des DNS dans le monde. Et vous avez présenté des grands groupes ayant le plus de DNS auxquels je peux dire les registres, ont délégué leur secondaire en griffe. Maintenant, je voulais vous demander quelles sont les best pratiques, puisque en le faisant, notre objectif, c'est de couvrir le monde en termes de résolution DNS pour notre extension. C'est dans ce cas-là que nous avons envoyé nos serveurs DNS secondaires vers ces registres-là. Mais là, vous dites qu'au niveau africain, on ne sent pas. Mais on s'est dit déjà au niveau africain, c'est déjà couvert puisqu'on a des serveurs afriniques et on sait qu'à Afrique, ces serveurs sont énicastés dans le monde. Donc, du coup, on n'a plus jugé nécessaire de pouvoir le faire au niveau africain. Ben, quel conseil pouvez-vous nous donner dans ce cas de figure? Voilà.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. Call me Stephen from South Sudan Registry. Mine is a quick one regarding the capacity building aspect of what you have highlighted. Does it have any prerequisite, or how do you usually go around it? So in case our registry needs to benefit from that aspect. Thank you.
Also make your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you, Barak. Thanks everyone for your questions. Thanks, Alain, for your comment. On these slides I've shared and the graphs and the statistics, it's quite different from the one you mentioned about, which is the ITHI, the Identifier Technology Health Indicator, which is a project run by ICANN, and there is a website for that, for those who are curious about knowing about ITHI. But this one is, I would say, a new project that we internally run at the technical engagement department, and the objective of this platform is actually to generate such kind of statistics for all the CCTLDs, even the GTLDs, and also the recursive resolvers used around the world. And we are still thinking of linking probably both projects, but for the moment it's completely different initiatives that run in parallel. So on the second question, which is related to advice on the zone file distribution, I will go in French just to also kind of dual stack. You know. Donc, je vais revenir en français. Malheureusement, désolé pour ceux qui vont devoir mettre le casque. Donc, en fait, les statistiques que j'avais présentées, ça montre dans quel réseau se situent les différents name serveurs qu'on utilise pour nos CCTLD. Et ce qu'il en ressort ici, c'est essentiellement en fait que, bon, on va dire c'est du panafricanisme que je suis en train de prôner, peut-être, de prêcher, mais le constat déjà, c'est que sur ces top 10-là, en fait, il n'y a qu'un seul réseau africain dans lequel les name servers se retrouvent. Quand je dis un seul, c'est quand je considère le top 10, d'accord? Donc, ce qu'on fait, c'est on prend chaque adresse IP des serveurs autoritaires de chaque CCTLD et on regarde en fait dans quel réseau cette adresse IP se retrouve. Et on se rend compte que sur les 218 serveurs qui desservent les 54 CCTLD, il y en a 31 qui se retrouvent dans un réseau américain. Il y en a 25 qui se retrouvent dans un réseau africain 10, 9, 8 et 6 qui se retrouvent dans des réseaux européens et africains. D'accord? Ce n'est pas mauvais. Ce n'est pas du tout mauvais. Ce qu'on ressort, c'est bon de faire la diversification, c'est très bien. Ce que je ressortais ici juste, c'était, il aurait peut-être été bon d'avoir en top 3 des réseaux africains qui font aussi du KeNIC derrière à travers le monde entier. Ce n'est pas un problème, c'est très bon, d'accord? Mais quand on voit ces adresses IP-là, que ce soit dans des réseaux africains, c'est un peu ce que j'essayais de faire ressortir ici. Et puis, la dernière question, the prerequisites for the training. Our trainings are free. And for almost all of them, there are no specific prerequisites. But we need to make sure that those who are attending the course actually, I would say, comply with the prerequisite for that course. What does it mean? You cannot request for a DNSSEC course if the team or the attendees do not really know about DNS, for instance. So we graduate also, we deliver the courses gradually based on the profile of the attendees. And all of this can be discussed when you get in touch with us and you request some trainings. We have a kind of discussion to understand who is willing to have the course, and from that we can build a dedicated journey for you. That's all, and I hope I answered all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I will address, although none of the questions were posted for me. So one was a reaction that ICANN is limited. ICANN, I think Lucky with .Africa will not say the same about ICANN, because new GTLD and GTLD world is all run by ICANN with rules, policies, etc., etc. Lucky can say more on that. Regarding CCTLD world, you must understand that ICANN cannot have any greater role than just advising CCTLD operators how they can achieve better results in their work. So this is something that is different between GTLD world and CCTLD world. And I want to highlight that Grancy is not limited. It's unlimited in their role, that we can provide also workshops, which we were doing, for example, in Angola. And we were providing training for their government, for their CCTLD operator, etc., etc. So there is a place also to get the knowledge about DNS if ICANN is limited. Second thing about Anycast, Anycast technology is based on number of nodes, number of servers across the world. So being in solely African network is providing better result for African people, but Anycast means the whole world. So for example, Grancy Anycast is having 84, I think today, nodes around the world, and it's not only in African continent. We have in all continents covering, and mostly the players from top 10 are doing the same. So they are providing access for the people who are getting your domain names from around the world. So this technology is to cut the latency of your domain names, but also to secure your domain names, as I was saying during my story. Third thing, I want to address EAI, which is part of universal acceptance. How many of you, can you raise your hands, knows what is EAI? Email address internationalization. How many of you knows what it is, what it means? Do you know RFCs from IETF? So the thing here is that many of you doesn't know what Eduardo was saying, and I'm jumping with my role. I was in Universal Acceptance Steering Group. What he was talking about so-called IDN emails. So you have six IDN CCTLDs. Those are written in ASCII, so in so-called Punicode. Mostly those are Arabic, yes, all Arabic. So for you to know what is IDN email, it means that the whole email is written on Arabic script. That means EAI. And can you receive it or not? That was the presentation that was Eduardo giving today. Thank you. That's it from me.
All right. Okay, just before Yazid, you go, Eduardo, closing comments quickly.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you, Dusan, for making that clarification. Yes, email address internationalization support, basically meaning emails using IDNs, internationalized domain names, are functional and can be used to send and receive emails. Again, just thank you for having me. Feel free to contact ICANN for anyone interested in knowing more about this survey tool. That's on global support at ICANN.org. And I believe the presentations will be posted in the website. I think there's a question, but yep. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, Barak. Just a quick comment on this presentation from Eduardo. I wanted to share just to let the audience know about some kind of opportunities which exist really. I did maybe 10% of what Eduardo presented a few years back after having a presentation on universal acceptance in my country. I did it with a friend of mine, and we shared the results of our survey to the GSE team and then to the UASG. And we got the opportunity to join the Universal Acceptance Steering Group as a UA ambassador, right? So those are real opportunities that exist, and you can jump into that area, and yes, as soon as you are interested in. The same thing for the different statistics I showed. This also requires some measurements to be conducted from time to time. Feel free to play with such kind of things and share them with the community and let people know what you are doing. That was my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are breaking for lunch. Let's be back by 2 p.m. Just a quick reminder, When we are in the room, let's ensure that we have our masks on. And also let's make sure that we have our tags at all times so that you can be identified properly. Otherwise, I believe the teams will be at the back of the room with the meal cards. Make sure that you have one. Let's proceed for lunch and meet for the afternoon session. Bon appetit. Okay.
Recording stopped.
My panel as they leave. Photographer.